Hello friends, welcome to Universe of Naruto X. If you love Naruto what if stories and anime explanations, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin today's story. However, she was not aware of much else aside from these numbers which rolled around in her head. All good memories, dreams, and bonds which flowed through her had been crushed into nothingness. She had been down here for 3 years. 3 years of clutching rotten food from bowls and from hearing the screams of men, women, and children who circulated around her. She had stopped trying to make friends. She had stopped trying to escape. Escape was not possible. Yes, she tried to hold to the hope that as long as she persevered, then maybe she would be able to see her family. Maybe she would even be able to meet the one who had caused her to come into this situation. However, that hope had long died by the tales woven to her. For 3 years, she had been down here. Weeping and gnashing of teeth became the universal languages with which she was accustomed. The dark became her world. It warped her sense of time, of belonging, and of living. Could she even classify herself as alive? She did not believe so. The lasting memories she had been given before her death had been snuffed out like a cruel flashlight in a dark forest. What did the sun look like? What did the moon look like? She could not remember. Day after day, lesson after lesson, pain after pain, she was surprised she even still knew her own name. She remembered being forcibly dressed up in demeaning attire and presented to all manner of clientele. Absurd prices and bids were placed upon her, but none of them seemed to satisfy her jailer. He gave in to none of the demands. Though forced into humiliation after humiliation, he had not allowed a single person to touch her. Aside from his wife, the woman had stolen her lips many times. She wasn't even sure when she stopped resisting. She just knew that she had. Yet, every single day that passed, she wondered what kept her moving. She was aware of at least 15 different ways she could make it all stop and find pleasure in the afterlife, but she kept pressing forward. Your name is dog. Do you hear me? Repeat it back to me. Dog, dog. A dog is loyal. A dog does not speak back. A dog listens to its owner without question. A dog is secondest to a human. It's not equal. There had been much horror placed upon her in breaking her to speak this name. She did not remember when she had broke, but she definitely had. Perhaps it was after the pain of hot coals under her feet. Perhaps it was after the strikes of a whip. Perhaps after the nice suffocation from having her chakra points forcibly closed. These were only a few of the many she had endured. Perhaps the worst was when a Yamanaka had tried to mentally wipe her mind of all of her memories. She had been administered to a doctor because her heart had stopped at least 2 times. To be honest, she wished it had stopped. However, one day it came to her. She understood why she kept living despite the obvious routes she could have taken to ensure her peaceful death. It was not for the sake of love. It was not for the sake of proving those who had tortured her wrong. No, unfortunately, she was human. She did not have this reason to live for selfless purposes. It was her own burning, smoldering hatred within her body. Hatred for herself, for her weakness. Hatred for these people who kept her. Hatred for the person responsible for putting her in here. Why did he not finish her off? If he had finished her off, then she would not be suffering like this. It was all she had left. She ate what they told her to eat. She drank what they told her to drink. All while slowly storing it away in the recesses of her mind, always there, never forgotten. For 3 long years, this hatred boiled. For 3 long years, this rage manifested. For 3 long years, this rage kindled itself. For 3 long years, this rage cultivated itself until she heard the sounds of footsteps. She had a plan in mind. Once he opened the door, with as much strength as the gods would grant her, come hell or high waters, she would wrap her rusted chains around the neck of Takamura Shingen and rip the essence of life from his eyes. His guards would have to kill her, or they would watch as she ripped the precious boss's head from his shoulders. She did not think about what she would do if she got out. But it was better than the alternative. Just you wait, Takamura Shingen. You would feel all of the rage that I had collected for all 3 years of her captivity. Every ounce of love, every ounce of appreciation for anything good, every ounce of hope for a better tomorrow died long ago. He would let her experience the well of despair that she felt. Her chains rattled and the sound of moaning prisoners stirred her. In a drugged daze, she noticed the footsteps stop. Her eyes looked up. This wasn't Takamura Shingen. No, it was that boy. What was his name? She couldn't remember, but she knew she had seen him at least a handful of times back during the moments of her existence that hadn't been so up. Then she heard the boy laugh. It was not a laugh full of the joy a boy his age should have. No, it was a laugh that she had found herself letting out those nights she laid on her cold bed dreaming unholy thoughts upon all of her tormentors. Izumi was surprised to even see an Ambu with him. He spoke some words to her, and to Ayumi's surprise, the Ambu dashed off like they had just been granted an order from the Hokage. You want Takamura Shingen, don't you? He asked. Her eyes lit up with unholy fire. Yes. Dare he ask such a question? Shingen should have been standing right there so he could open the cell and she could watch the blood pour from his mouth when Izumi stiffened when she watched the boy kneel down and hold out his hand into the cell. Well, that'll be kind of difficult for you if you're in this cell. I can give you Takamura Shingen, but what will you give me? He asked, his tone of speech. She was starting to recall it. It was very faint within the drags of her memories, but it was there. Usuzu, Maki, Ina, Rudo. She wheezed out, her throat dry. She did not believe him. Why should she, a no-name orphan boy, had in his possession one of the most powerful underground leaders in Konoha? If he was expecting her to laugh at his joke, then he would be disappointed. Then she felt something sharp at the tip of her neck. She stared down and widened her eyes when she saw blood dripping onto her cell floor. A dark blade of the same fluid was mere inches from claiming her life. She stared up and she gazed into a sea of red within Naruto's eyes. Why, you don't have, she uttered. However, she stiffened when he pushed the blade a bit further into her chest. I choose my next words carefully, Izumi-san. I remember you very well. You helped me once. I'll leave it to you to remember when to think Itachi abandoned you after you loved him so much. Kind of like how everyone abandoned me in a way. He didn't kill you like you thought. Naruto said. Her anger flared. Itachi, 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 Itachi. Na rose an eyebrow when he watched Izumi lean forward, the blade piercing her flesh. She stared at him and he stared back. Na slowly retracted the blade of blood into his body. He watched her lean over at the drips of blood he left. She slowly circled her tongue around each one. He knew she had no way of knowing if he was telling the truth or not, but in her anger, she cared not. If he released her, then she would bring about her own revenge, starting with him. She knew what he was going to ask her. Serve him mind, body, soul, and spirit. A slave to any dark order he wished, but she cared not. For in his eyes she saw the corpses which laid at her feet for all the misdeeds she had suffered. Why a 10-year-old held such eyes, she did not know. Even more so, she was not aware of ever helping him. Minutes ago, she couldn't even remember his name. Izumi remembered the dream of the life she had wanted when Itachi had placed her under a genjutsu. At that moment, she was the happiest she had ever been. She was not expecting to wake up, but she hadn't. The joy of her dreams came crashing down to return her to a life she loathed. However, she stilled when she heard his voice speak. So, the silent treatment. All right, I'll leave you in there. I can find better uses for you, Na said, but her chains rattled with haste. No, she couldn't allow him to leave. What he planned, she did not know. But in the face of her hatred, she did not care what she had to do for him. Ta ca murren gen nnn. She rasped out. Na firmly nodded. He's all yours. My use for him has run its course anyway. I have the red dragon under my control. True, it's not complete, but I just have to get rid of a few inconveniences. Naruto said this was actually true. Currently, he had the former leader cleaning up his apartment. That should enough. Plus, it was still an experiment for how far he could extend his control. Under disguise, he had Takamura buying him some groceries. Perhaps he wouldn't have to work off a pathetic orphan stipend anymore from the Hokage. His wife, she asked. Na gave pause for a moment. He supposed he didn't need her for anything important. Though working off Shingen's memories, then he supposed he did have a sort of temporary assignment for the W. Oh man, do whatever you want to her, aside from kill her for the next 2 months. I do need her alive in one form or the other. However, after those 2 months, throw her to the wolves for all I care. Anything else? Na asked curiously. He watched the Uchiha cough for but a moment. Na felt blood surge forward. Uchiha Ida Kai. She did not ask this. She firmly demanded it. This got a small smile from Naruto. He watched her slowly lean her face over the drops of blood he had left. The blonde had not seen Itachi on his own. He had seen Itachi from the memories of Yuga, Shingen, and even some of the animals the Kyuubi container had seen. He knew he was no match for Itachi. Neither was Izumi at this current level to challenge Itachi was going to kill Naruto faster than the blonde. He knew what to do with. But the Kyuubi container had discovered something interesting that he wouldn't be able to share just yet. I don't know where he is, but with connections to the Red Dragon, I'm sure he'll turn up eventually. Na answered. Truth be told, it was possible. Though he was only speaking from the times he had observed Shingen performing business ventures with other organizations rather than his own intuition. Na held out his hand into the cell. You have one chance. You can back out now and I'll let you go. You can give up your hate and move on. Unfortunately, I can't do that. Make your decision now before I get bored and leave, he responded. But his eyes gleamed with glee when she immediately lapped her tongue on the drops before her. She then reached and placed her chained hands into his own. Bar CK out. Never, she snarled. Na firmly nodded his head, and he opened the cell doors. With a blade of blood, he discarded the restraints which had bound her for so long. She did not stand. She merely looked upon him. She did not remember helping him, but he had clearly helped her. She hoped one day she would be able to find the memories which could guide her. Yet she could also feel the intense burning within her body. She could feel his mind and his blood molding her. But she did not fight this. Once the burning ceased, she stood to her feet just in time for the Anbu to return with a notepad. Anbu NC Han, help her out. Get her food and some clean clothes. Also, give her a bath. Naruto ordered. The Anbu said not a word and moved the Uchi on her way. And what about you? Na asked when he walked to the cell over. He spotted another woman, though it had lost life. Her red hair slipped over her face. Her eyes unfocused, yet her ears picked up on his voice. Na had to have her. Such a powerful life force could magnify his abilities and hopefully his control. Yet the plank for her name was empty. What's your name? He asked. She looked at him. Her violet eyes couldn't seem to place his form. Whether she had been down here for so long that the light had not granted her adequate sight or not was something for debate. Her skin looked pale and her body seemed withered. I don't remember. I don't even know how long I've been down here. I only know it's been a long time. I have asked the men and women who work here, but I am assigned the label dog. It is all I have to go by, she remarked. Naruto's mouth thinned, his eyes narrowed, if only for a moment. He opened the cell door and stood before her. He noticed how she stiffened in front of him. Have they touched you? He asked. She slowly shook her head. He exhaled slowly and knelt before her, his red eyes gleaming in front of her. She felt the urge to reach out and take them. No, I have not been touched. Takamura Shingen merely visits me at least once every 2 weeks. He looks at me, laughs for 10 minutes, and then leaves me as if he knows something I do not. I know dog is not my name, but it is all I have to go on. I heard what you planned to do. Would you help me? She asked. Na stood in front of her. No, I'm not going to help you. You're holding on to the hope that I do. You have that same look I did. Other than your name, what do you think was taken from you? He asked. The woman looked at the ground. Angrier and angrier she became. Her face scrunched up and she gnashed her teeth. The ground beneath her feet cracked and Naruto took a slight step back. She then slowly settled. I think something more important to me than my name was taken. Please, let me serve you as well, she claimed. Despite his glee, Na kept his visage plain. He knelt in front of her again and stared into her eyes. And what use would I have for some woman in a dungeon who doesn't even know her own name? You have no skills. You have no information I can use. Why should I take you? He asked. She clenched the ground. The woman released a breath. Yes, I don't know my name and thus I can be whoever you need me to be. I don't remember what morals I had, so I can do whatever you ask me to do. I don't remember my enemies, so I can hate whomever you wish me to hate. I can love whomever you wish me to love. I'll get it right. If I can't, then you are free to dispose of me whenever you please, my lord, she said, which made Na stall for a moment. The only one who had spoken of him in that way had been Yugao. Why did you call me that? Na asked. She looked up at him, her eyes as lifeless as his for these days that he could remember. She swallowed as hard as she could. She was desperately thirsty. It seemed appropriate. I won't address you formally if you wish, but it's all I have known, she claimed. Na grumbled, but he agreed. It wasn't an uncomfortable title. Perhaps he would have to begin getting used to it. He had only heard it with restrained disdain from Yuga, but to hear it without hostility was rather unsettling from what he had first known. He shook his head. Keep it, then. I'll make good use of you. Also, I'm not calling you dog. Let's see. Until we figure out your real name, then you will be Azu Nitsuko, a spin-off of my last name, Usuzuaki, he claimed. He watched her stiffen for a moment, almost as if a swell of memories had flourished through her body. She was quick to notice him staring at her when she had returned. I'm sorry, the name just sounded familiar. I will use the name well then, my lord. Will I drink your blood as well? She asked. He stared down at her. He watched her slowly attempt to stand. Her footsteps were clearly incoordinated, but he paid no heed to that. He held out his bloodied finger to her without complaint. Usu licked the red fluids from his flexed joint. She then swallowed it. Just as with Azumi, Azu fell over when the burning sensation filled her body, but she slowly exhaled her breath. She could feel the urge to vomit, but by her strength, she resisted this feeling. It was as if something within her was exploding and it rocked the chambers of her body. However, she was thankful that this was not a long experience. She then stood to her feet and held herself before him. Her long red hair flowed down her side. Usuzu Nitsuko, my lord, use me as you see fit, she said. Na resisted the urge to laugh. Try as he might, he was still 10. The double connotation was amusing to say the least, but he turned around before he broke the character he had already established. He also had to place some new orders on Yuga. No doubt she was already trying to think of some way use them against him. But the thrill was rather interesting. The two walked out of the cell, although Usuzu clearly had some difficulties. She grabbed the handlebars and used them for leverage. My lord, what about them? She asked, pointing towards the rest of the prisoners. His mouth thinned. Try as he might, he could find no reason to eliminate them. Some of these people were very powerful and others were clearly influential. He could make use of them. Actually, now there was a thought. After you've dressed up, you decide what happens to them. I want to see what you'll come up with, Nard. She did not say anything. She just walked after him and out of the cells. They made their way into the office. Usuzu stiffened when she saw the guards, but with gritted teeth, they moved to the side. Nali only smirked when he passed them. He noticed she seemed to stick to him very hard when in their presence. He only shook his head. He supposed that this would be happening for a couple of days or weeks. It was not so bad to allow this every once in a while. Thankfully, it wasn't difficult to locate Yuga and Ayumi. When he had come through the door, it had just been in time to see the former fitted, no doubt, with the former boss's wife's clothes. Izumi brushed some of her hair from the folders of the dress. I'm burning these when I have the opportunity, she spoke. Truth be told, Naruto didn't care. That wasn't his concern at the moment. Do whatever you want to them. Now then, Ni-chan, do the same for Usuzu-chan. She needs to get cleaned up, too. Also, be sure to go down into the cells with her later. She's going to make some interesting decisions, Naruto said. Yua did not want to know what he meant, but her conditioning had made her nod. She led the redhead into the shower. Meanwhile, he noticed Azumi waiting for what seemed to be his first orders. The blonde opened his notepad and scanned some of his notes. He did not feel particularly stronger, but it might have been because he hadn't taken their blood. They had taken his. Perhaps there was a difference to be had here. He needed to think. All right, first things first. Get food, some actual food. Then you're going to be training for the next 2 weeks before you kill anyone. Naruto said he felt it odd to be commanding anyone to be training when he could remember the times he formerly goofed off. He didn't turn around to see Azumi's reaction, but he could see her shadow loom over him. You said I would get Takamura Shingen. You said you would give him to me, she said, her voice cleared from its previous raspiness. Naruto exited the room and she followed behind him, albeit with great difficulty. This continued until they arrived back at Takamura Shingen's office. Perhaps Naruto should be calling it his office now. He took a seat in the chair. And what makes you think you can take down a fully grown man? You're in Ueha, so I assume you have shinobi training. The blonde asked. Azumi's face hardened, but a tone of embarrassment filled her body. She exhaled with a grumble. She agreed that she had received shinobi training as a genin. It took Naruto a lot to not laugh. Then again, by all accounts, she was higher ranked than him being an academy student. And you think it's a good idea for you, who has been in a cell for Kami knows how long, without training in any shinobi skills, can barely walk straight, and looks about as malnourished as an orphan child to take on one of the highest lords of the underworld? He asked. She glanced off to the side. Okay, so maybe it sounded very stupid when he pointed it out to her so blatantly like that. Perhaps it wasn't the smartest decision in the world. You won't keep him under your technique while I deal with him? She asked. Her anger was slowly raising back up to where it had been. Yes, she was weak at the moment, but she understood the power of a grudge. She had held one for 3 long years. She had no troubles with turning on the one who had saved her. By his eyes, she was also sure that he could tell what she was thinking. He leaned forward on his desk. No, I'm not going to help you. Once you're up to strength, I'm going to release him from my technique. You'll be the one to track him down and kill him. If he's really worth your time, then you should be able to deal with him on your own. If your hate is that strong, then you shouldn't need anyone's help beyond that point now, should you? The blonde asked. Izumi fell silent for a moment. She supposed it would make her feel better to deal with him herself. She also supposed Naruto was under no obligation to help her. Did she need his help? No, she probably didn't. She gave a low grumble, but she acquiesced to this as well. Besides, he can't be the only one you resent in this building. None of the guards made comments about you. None of the clients made demeaning comments about you. There's no one else you hate that you could practice your techniques on in this building? He asked. Izumi quickly got where the 10-year-old was going with this. Her eyes hardened. There was no shortage of men and women she could practice with. There was also no shortage of pent-up rage filling her body. However, leave that alone for now. You know, Uchiha Sasaki survived. He's one of my classmates. Na answered. The former captive turned around. Izumi frowned. Itachi's little brother. Why should I care about him? Unless you're saying I should be happy another member of my clan is alive and my revenge is pointless, she inquired. Naruto shook his head. Nope. Just letting you know since you'll have found it out later. Alright, you must be excited to get some actual food than the garbage you kept getting here. Go get some. After that, do whatever you want. I don't care how possessive Shingen was over you. He needed someone to look after your health. I'm going to need to know how to fix you, Na said, throwing some money he had found on the table. I didn't complain. She merely took the money, bowed, and walked out of the door. That doctor, she hoped this would be the last time she ever had to be touched by her. She must have passed Azu and Yuga because the door opened again, showing a much more fitted red head than the blonde had seen in the cells. She looked deathly pale. They would have to work on rectifying that. She was no use to him in this state that he could think of. But she had important decisions to make, and he couldn't wait to find out. He stood up. Have fun. I'll be back later. I have some other things to deal with, he said rather cryptically. The large grin on his face filled Yuga with worry, but she was not permitted to follow him. He waved goodbye to them both as they descended the staircase once more to deal with what laid Bell. Ow. He then closed the door behind them. He noticed the 2 guards standing there. When I get back, I'd better not hear about any problems or this place is going to be down 2 more people. Got me? He asked. They quickly got him, even if they wanted to quickly get rid of him. The funny thing was, he could easily tell that was what they wanted. He wished them luck if they tried. It would have to be greatest luck in the history of this village. Needless to say, that room was -1 guard, and he was plus another well of blood to empower himself. Yes, Na was beginning to learn that hired help was worthless. Not a single smart one anywhere. Na found a lone room. He closed the door and locked it. He sat in the middle of the room and closed his eyes. For the next 5 hours, he would be shifting through the memories of people he had received. He hoped in the coming days he would be able to work on his training now that he had a couple of other participants. But for now, it was time to do a bit of fast-paced movie watching. Izumi Uchiha gasped as she finished her 5th plate of food. After too many years of GRL and slop, she was finding the wonderful aroma of perfectly prepared food rather unorthodox. Plus, it was hard for her to open her eyes in the sun. She had knocked into at least 5 people on her way to feed herself. Never mind that she kept getting comments about her extreme diet plans. She ignored the comments. She felt so pitiful. She had to keep herself from falling to tears with each bite of food. She had given up on having such luxuries. Yet, she was saved by a 10-year-old outcast of Konoha. Try as she might, I was not able to remember ever helping Uzumaki Naruto. Just trying to remember had given her a headache. She hoped these things would come in time. Then again, spending years of your life in darkness had an odd way of reshaping the perceptions of time and distortions of space. In the time that she ate, she watched dozens of people enter the establishment and leave. Some couples and others alone, each of them wore a pleasant visage of contentment and fulfillment. Izumi didn't like it. She wondered if she had worn such expressions on her face. If she had, then she wished she could have erased it from her face. She resisted the urge to scowl when some even waved to her. She did not wave back. There was too much light here. A snarl escaped her throat. In that moment, she recognized how much she had changed. She was finally free, but the chains of darkness beneath Konoha still kept her bound. It was as if the village's sole existence was to drain the entire life from her body. She paid for her food and angrily left the area, ignoring the goodwill sent to her from one of the staff members. She clumsily walked through the village stores, some new and some old, past her gaze. The sun was hot and she felt tired, but she had someplace to go. She kept her head down. She wondered how she looked. Did she seem poor? Did she seem elderly? The clothes she wore felt like fine robes. Though worn by common folk, for her they felt akin to the softest shades of material fit to embrace the human body. For many years she had known only the comfort of rags. It was a nice, if odd feeling. Her stroll took her towards the Uchiha compound. She stared at one of the many doors which led into the compound. Her eyes gazed upon the dirt that she and her mother walked. The young recalled her father's will. He strove to protect those around him from harm. She had always wished to be like him. Yet he was one with the memorial stone now. Where was her mother among the dirt and traitors spoken of about the Uchiha clan and their coup? Yes, Izumi knew it was one of Shingen's favorite tales to her. He told her how Uchiha Itachi had ruthlessly cut down the men, women, and children of the Uchiha clan. No doubt her mother was among those people. The goodness of her mother, the strength of her service, the courage of her heart dragged through the dung and mud. It whistled in the dirt because of her clan's hour's desire for power. She remembered believing that no Uchiha worth their pride would summon the Kaiba no Yoko. But she kept finding belief after belief to be tested. All of this because of Itachi. Now do not mistake her. She did not wish to kill Itachi to revenge her clan. She did not wish to kill Itachi for ending her life in the fashion that he had. No, these were not her reasons for such things. No, in another life, she loved Itachi. She was sure that somewhere in her heart of hearts, she still did. Yet, that only made her rage burn hotter. She took a calming breath. She supposed she should head back to the lair before Naruto would start looking for her. She took one more look at the gates and then she began to walk away. I know it's improper to speak ill of the dead, but I can't help but think, good riddance. Izumi glanced to her side, and she noticed a woman standing next to her looking at the gates, which led into the Uchiha compound. The Uchiha female frowned before fully turning towards the woman. I mean, you heard the rumors, right? It was said that an Uchiha was the one who attacked the village by taking control of the Kaiba no Yoko. I don't know about you, but I've slept much easier knowing the gone. The village has been a lot more peaceful, she stated. Was it worth it, Itachi? Was the exile worth it? Was her life worth it? Was her mother's life worth it? Were the years that she spent in physical and mental torture worth it? Was having her dignity, her pride, her feelings, her very being degraded worth this? Forgive her if she did not share in the notion. I suppose it has. Good day, Izumi muttered. She was tired. She hoped to get home and then have that ridiculous doctor take her physical for the blonde who had released her. Good day to you as well. I just think everyone in the village has started to learn that the only good Uchiha is a dead one, she said, and the woman walked off. However, Izumi did not. Her feet felt as if they had just been frozen in severe ice. She stared at the ground. Her body then trembled as if the flames of Hades had washed over her. She faced the woman. Rage filled her eyes. Anger filled her spirit. Death filled her tongue. Huff, 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 huff. Izumi panted as she slowly regained her senses. In her hands was a large stone that she must have picked up. Its face was awash with the color and scent of blood. Down on the ground were the crushed remains of the woman who had just been speaking to her. That is, if one could even remember what she looked like. She also noticed they were no longer in the street, but in an alleyway. Izumi Uchiha's eyes glowed with the stunning might of the Uchiha clan ocular dojutsu, the Sharingan. She shuffled the stone into one of her pockets. Her eyes hollow when she looked up the woman she had just killed. And the only good Konoha civilian is a silent one, Ayumi replied. She dropped the body into one of the alleyway trash cans. Hopefully, the stray dogs and gnats would do some of the work for her. Izumi Uchiha stepped out of the dark alley she had somehow found herself in. There was no one to be found, so she walked out and continued back to the club. She let out a laugh with no warmth. Yes, she had become corrupted as well. A normal life could not fix her. So this was what Itachi felt was worth the destruction of her clan. This is what Itachi felt was worth the destruction of her kind nature. Then she would show him what she thought of his glorious sacrifice. It was right there in the garbage along with the rest of Konoha, right where it belonged. One might ask why Ko Hyuga, Jonin of Konoha, member of the noble Hyuga clan and member of the main branch of the clan, would ally himself why? An organization such as the Red Dragon. The reason was very simple. He despised the Hyuga clan. He despised everything the clan stood for. For many years, he kept his southing rage beneath a layer of calm, cold, and compassion. He did not like the Hyuga clan. He held burning contempt for the main branch and the side branch. Yet, the one he held even more hatred for was Hyuga Hyashi. Guarding Hyashi's daughters was a constant test of his will to not exact the revenge he had placed up them. Hyuga Hinata and Hyuga Hanabe were the two charges he had been forced to guard and protect. He did not appreciate them either. One was a stuttering weakling, and the other was a child steadily growing into arrogant Hyuga pride. It had been in his plan to have the Red Dragon sell them both off. He didn't plan to do this at the same time, as this might have drawn suspicion to him, but he would make Hyuga feel exactly what he felt. He would feel the rage, the sorrow, the suffering, the loss of something precious. It was easy. He had already made the necessary steps to begin with Hinata. It would happen just before the girl was ready to partake in her Chunin exams. It was easy for tensions to arise between nations during international events. Kumogak learned that after all. So when he had been informed by Santa Yamanaka that the Red Dragon had been compromised, he had felt angrier than he had ever been in his entire shinobi career. However, this anger was quickly replaced with shock when he learned who had taken it over. Uzuaki Na, he thought to himself as he surveyed one of the Red Dragon's main office buildings within the red light district from atop a separate roof. Ko had seen the blonde a handful of times. He was called a failure of a shinobi in the making. He was the dead last of the academy. He was also the holder of the Keilu no Yoko, the demon fox which laid waste to Konoha almost 10 years ago. Ko refused to believe a boy of 10 years would become capable of such a thing. He had claimed this to be a mere joke. However, Santa had claimed that the boy had massacred the heads of the organization based in Konoha and had Takamura's wife imprisoned. It sounded like a joke that had gone horribly wrong to Ko. What surprised them was that the club was running once again. People could be seen entering with friends, significant others, and lovers. Are you sure we shouldn't have alerted the Chunin unit? We may need them, Santa replied, his eyes firm upon the establishment. Ko snorted. It's a 10-year-old boy, Santa. He's late for his bedtime. He shouldn't be pranking and doing jokes in the red light district, and most certainly not to one of the most notorious criminal organizations within the underworld. You didn't even have to come. I could have taken care of this, County said. Santa frowned for a moment, but he released a breath. Of course, you could, but I still want us to proceed with caution. For all we know, the boy could have gained access to the powers of the Kaoli. It would be the only plausible reason that he would be able to instill such fear in the guards. We will have to try and find Takamura-san when this is over as well, Santa replied. Ko agreed with this, but for now they would have to deal with the current matter at hand. Both John and swiftly arrived at the back entrance of the club. The guards stared at them before ushering them inside. Ko growled and wanted to cover his ears from the blazing music, but Santa quickly took him off before he had a chance to. Honestly, he loathed this ridiculous club music. Thank you for swiftly coming, Cone. Santa S. We hope to have this wrapped up by tomorrow morning. We have already begun a search for Takamura-sama, but we haven't held any results. You can find the brat up in the boss's office. Make it hurt for him, the guards said. They both agreed and began to march up the flight of stairs. Every guard they passed wished them the best of luck, but when asked about how the blonde was able to take control, they were all eerily silent. This made the Yamanaka member rather nervous. However, it only made the Hyuga member angrier. They came up to the door and for once cursed the fact that Takamura Shingen had such wonderful defenses against an assault from shinobi and forces. It was terrifying how efficient the man was in protecting himself. Enforced doors, a long hallway of walls lined with a residue that made it impossible to latch on with chakra, and even traps if one weren't careful in looking. Plus, there were the lines of guards standing in front of the door. Something feels wrong, Santa said. A corrupt Jonin he was, but he was a Jonin nonetheless. This was not normal. It was as if they were expected. Ko felt the same way, but they had come here to end this farce, and neither was about to turn away for fear from a boy. Ko swiftly sped through the hand signs he had learned and shouted. By organ, he exclaimed. His eyes quickly formed the ring of the ocular dojutsu of the Hyuga clan. Almost instantly, he nearly fell to his knees and lurched forward. He coughed into his open hands while his fellow Jonin attempted to settle him. Ko, company, what's the problem? What did you see? Santa asked. Darkness. That was what County saw. That was what County felt. He could see dark red tendrils wrapping themselves around the door. It was so red he could barely see past the door. He could even see the faint outline of red mist, which slowly expelled itself from the underopening of the door. He's released the Kayabi's power. That has to be it. I sense dark chakra of immense hatred. It's the same time as with the Kayabi. It's the only explanation, County replied. Santa cursed for a moment. So, it was as they feared. Uzumaki Naruto had unlocked the power of the Kayabi. What would they be able to do? Wow, we're jumping to conclusions here, aren't we, Cone? It doesn't take the power of the Kayabi to take down peons like those working here. I know you're there too, Santa. How about we stop with all the shinobi escapades and the both of you come inside? I've had a lot of business knowledge crammed into my head. I'm feeling willing to use it, a voice said over one of the intercoms within the club. Naturally, this did not worry the guests and dancers because they hadn't heard any of it. However, the snarl in Ko's face was easily discernible. Even the guards seemed troubled that their Jonin agents had been spotted. How did he know we were here? The guards said that all of the cameras were not being monitored. What do we do? Ko asked. The John and Yamanaka took a deep breath inside. For now, the element of surprise was over. Even if that was the case, they were both confident they could still easily take a 10-year-old boy. Yet, the atmosphere had swiftly changed against them. Well go. It will at least give us some answers as to where he's keeping Takamura. I can ensnare him with the mind-body switch technique. That should grant you enough time to seal off his chakra points. Well, let Takamura-san find out what to do with him afterwards, he suggested. The Hyuga quickly agreed, and both men walked towards the door. Each door opened, and they found the blonde sitting in the chair, his fingers intertwined. Santa did not know why a bead of sweat fell down his face, but he could not deny that it had. The air was laced with the smell of blood. They also noticed that the boy was not alone. Two young women, each with masks on their faces, stood at the side of him. Judging by their malnourished features, they were most likely slaves girls from the decks below. They stood before him. Na stared back at him, a grin upon his face. This filled Santa with worry. Why would a 10-year-old be able to smile in the face of two Jonin officers? Konoha shinobi, inheritors of the will of fire, protectors of the Konoha populace, fierce defenders of Konohage Nosado, and members of noble clans. I suppose the phrase, how the mighty have fallen, is rather apt here. But then again, Konoha was always pitiful. I wonder how that old fool of a Hokage and the clan heads of your respective families would feel if I told them about your developments. That'd make for an exciting TV show, Naruto said. Both John and frowned. If this is a prank, brat, then it's a foolish one. You fail to comprehend just who you are messing with. If you're bored, then go find your entertainment somewhere else. It is not to be found here. Now tell us where Takamura Shingen-sama is, Santa commanded, a deep tone added to his voice. Yet Naruto's smirk never dropped. Tell you where Takamura Shingen is. Probably drowning in the golden leaf bathhouse in his luxurious private suite. Or maybe he's having an orgy with some prostitutes. Who's to know these days? Na asked, a shrug to his shoulders. Oh. He had a lot of time to get over his embarrassment of by the time he had gotten out of that closet. Wait a minute. Enough of this. How did you take control of the Red Dragon if you didn't use the Kyuubi's power? There are guards stationed around the building and this club every hour on the hour. You're treading on thin ice, kid. You think you can threaten us? I doubt Hokage-sama would have brat over to Jonin. The Hauge said. However, both watched Naruto quickly put his head in his hands. He then started crying. They tied me up, Gigi, and took me into this weird L-looking bar. Talked about selling me along with the rest of the slaves in the lower levels. I tried to get away, but I had to squeeze through the cell bars. My hand hurts when they broke it. I tried SSS so hard. They told me to take off my CCC loss. This weird LL lady touched me. Naruto cried before he slammed the table and laughed. Ko snarled. His face was red with anger. Oh. Trust me, Kon. A child can make their tale believable. All that matters is the way it's presented. Dad Bio. Now then, Izumi-chan, go back to practice. We got to get that body of yours back into shape. Usuzu-chan, prepare some drinks. We'll be having a lot of discussion tonight, Naruto claimed. Usuzu quickly bowed to him and exited the office to do as he had requested. This left Na alone with the two Jonin. Yet, the two Jonin did not attack. The smile on Naruto's face hadn't faded away. It was unsettling. Now then, if we're done with idle threats, then we can finally start discussing matters. And by discuss I mean I talk and you two listen, Naruto stated. Santa could see County snarl. He could see his partner already making his movements to strike. Na removed himself from his seat. Now truth be told, I don't like either of you. In fact, I downright hate both of you. You might care, you might not. But I'm going to tell you anyway. You know why I hate you. 'Cause you're Konoha shinobi. Just like you hate me for holding the Kyuubi. I think that's good turnabout. So, because I hate you, Kon, I'm going to tell you. I know where your sister was sold to, and I'm not going to tell you, Naruto said. His grin widened. The hire bursted up from his chair, but Na focused his attention onto the Yamanaka. As for you, Santan, the money that you were being paid to treat your spouse in one of our allied villages will be stopped until I deem say so, Naruto said without a word. Ko charged at Naruto in anger. You overstep yourself, brat. I am not some toy for you to play with. The consequences you will face will be numerous. Ko exclaimed. Even Santa was beginning his hand signs to bind the blonde for long enough that the Hyuga could disable him, but neither was prepared for an ambu to drop from the ceiling and land in front of them. Yuga blocked Ko's palm strike with the arm guards of her ambu uniform. The surprise from County wasn't even allowed to register before he heard Santa offer a grunt of pain. He turned around and he noticed his associate with his arm locked in a kanai at his throat. And Anbu works for him. What kind of nightmare is this? Ko asked. He turned back to the blonde. My consequences will be numerous, will they? I have to say I'm impressed it took you so long to attack me. I almost thought I figured you wrong based on the nigh 8 hours of memories I've had to sift through in a closet, but I'm glad I was wrong. You're both as stupid as I thought. Now then, I like to think of myself as better than the rest of the Konoha garbage that walks the streets. So, I'm going to give you both a task. I'm not going to give it to you now. Or maybe I won't even give it to you 10, 20, or even 40 years down the line. But if you accomplish it, then I might give you the information you want. Naruto offered. Ko and Santa did not speak. There came a knock on the door and Na moved for the person to enter. Usuzu returned with the drinks. She placed a tray on the table. Na took one. Oh. Don't worry about me drinking. It's sparkling cider. I have to say, taking the memories of a woman who worked at the hospital has its benefits. I don't know why you people drink that junk anyway, but I'm not here to discuss dietary habits. Now, please take your seats again and let's discuss your place here, Naruto proposed. You. What makes you think you can control one of the most powerful underground empires in the elemental nations? Ko asked. Na sat back in his chair and placed his feet on his desk. Oh. You'll find that I have a lot of professional experience working in my favor, Kon. Neither John and knew what the blonde was speaking of, but the Andrew, which stood between them, and their target had not left them with many options. Both took a seat. They did not take the drinks. Whether this was out of caution or out of mere spite was debatable. Yet, Na didn't mind. As long as he was satisfied, then there was no problem. Now, if only he could get some decent ramen. That instant, Na frowned. It had been a couple of days and he had not returned to the one place that made him constantly question his growing hatred for Konoha. The one place that one could argue was where people of trust existed. Tuki and his daughter Ayami were some of the very few people that did not betray Naruto's trust. What would they think of him now? Perhaps they would hate him now for what he was doing. Even so, they were not enough. Their kindness was not enough. He stared at the two Jonin. He kept his smile forward, though he was not sure he felt it as clearly as before. I feel like I just aged another 10 years. Where's the fun in being an adult anyway? Na asked as he laid on top of his bed. Yugal removed her mask and placed it on the desk that the blonde had brought from the bar office that he had been using. As much as Yuga tried to hate him, a spiteful grin did appear on her face. Shorties like you need their bedtime instead of hanging around criminal organizations, she replied. He turned his head to her and childishly stuck out his tongue. He then propped himself up on his bed. Hara. Very funny. I wonder how the rest of your colleagues are going to take the fact that you got outsmarted by a shorty. Besides, based on my age and medical knowledge from some lady, I'm bound for a growth spurt sooner or later, he said. He switched out his clothes for his pajamas and turned off his light, not waiting for her response to his comments. What are you going to do with the Uchiha and Usuzu-san? I doubt they will be comfortable around the guards there, Yuga asked. Na turned over in his bed and let out a yawn. He pulled his covers over his body. They're safe. That's all you need to know for now. Also, before you ask, I did mean what I said. Takamura Shingen isn't going to be showing up. He'll play his part as well. Now, I assume you don't want to be hovering over me all night, so go do whatever you want. Bearing the obvious things, he ordered, he then quickly fell asleep. Yuao frowned for a moment. She thought to pull her blade, but she decided that the frustration of failure was not something she felt like going through. In addition, now that she thought if she did manage to kill him, then she would not be ready to explain why the Kyuubi was rampaging through Konoha again. So, she walked away in disapproval. She jumped out of the window and dashed off into the darkness, not knowing that she was being watched by eyes from far away. The next morning, Naruto watched Ayumi and Usuzu exercise their bodies. He did not trust having that doctor around, but he didn't feel like having the Konoha hospital taking a look at them until he had steps prepared. Along with them, he spotted at least 30 other male and female warriors who had been imprisoned within the cells. It turned out that Usuzu had decided to release those who would follow under the boy's rule. Rather unorthodox, but he didn't mind. The others who refused would stay in their cells for his use. Naturally, this wasn't a small group of people, and Naruto had a feeling he would have a headache shifting through the memories of even these Chunin, Genin, and former John and Shinobi and Kunoichi. He would have to save such matters for later. In the meantime, he did have a laugh watching Azumi practice with some of the bodyguards as her training partners. Naturally, she held nothing back, but Naruto wasn't so soft on her that he didn't allow him to hit her back. What good was training if the dummies never retaliated? Of course, he made sure she wasn't hurt too badly, said training dummies would be in a lot of pain if they damaged his goods. Unfortunately, he couldn't exercise the offensive capabilities of his power, at least not with the walking piles of flesh in front of him. But the supportive and defensive capabilities were actually quite interesting. So far, he hadn't been given a headache, and the excess blood which had drained seemed to finally be settling. He did feel oddly stronger. It was a rather nice feeling. For one, it felt like he didn't have to commit so much of his strength to restraining Yuga anymore. Sometimes he hardly felt he was restraining her at all. "My lord, I have completed my exercises," Azu said, which drew his attention. He noticed she had been given quite the sweat, but moved on. "Good. Now then, you do know the group you freed are your responsibility." "Correct?" he asked. She quickly assured him that she knew they were her responsibility and her consequence. Should she fail, punishments would be in order. "Yes, my lord, they fight well. They do hold a hatred for Konohasha shinobi as well, but I believe that to be more for those who kept them here and for the general populace." Others expressed desire to return home. "I only told them I would make no promises," she remarked. Na snorted. Of course, they would want to return home, but he had other plans for them. "Well, that's going to have to wait. It'll be in another week when the organization reports state that the Red Dragon was overtaken. No doubt I've created a power struggle. It'll be worth it to see how the other organizations fare trying to undermine us. Now, then, Usuzu-chan, I need you to run a small errand for me," Naruto spoke. "I understand," she replied. She watched Naruto write upon a slip of paper before handing it to her. He then threw her a wallet he had found. It held enough money whose it was, he really didn't care. He watched her dismiss those who were working and rushed off to complete her task. Truth be told, Na shouldn't have been surprised that there was a pit of death below the bar. No doubt many people seemed to gamble upon events such as this, but it made for excellent training where they couldn't surface to do the same. Also, one might be thinking it was foolhardy to place an amnesiac in charge of freed slave maintenance, but Naruto had a good feeling about her. That woman was going to surprise him. Now, as for the second one, he sighed when he watched her take down another guard. Something had happened with Azumi. She seemed a lot angrier these days. When she returned yesterday with the smell of blood on her hands, he hadn't investigated. Then again, he did see why Sasuke's clansmen were so fearsome. Though her previous life might have said differently, Izumi seemed very taken to the training he had provided her. She was already receiving instruction from Santa Yamanaka. Hopefully, by the time he would begin his training with the Sandame, then things would start to get interesting. Naruto-sama the blonde turned around and noticed one of the guards with a letter in his palms. "This was delivered just now. It's about the recent cargo that was just shipped," he said. Na took the letter. He narrowed his eyes. He then exhaled. "Fine, everyone go home. But aside from the Yamanaka, you all better be back here at nighttime. Izumi, you're with me. I think it's time we paid a small visit to the others. If I recall, we do have a representative from the area that ship was lost in. Besides, it also gives me a chance to discuss some interesting negotiations down the line," Naruto claimed. Izumi grumbled. But given that the training session had been deemed over, then there was not much for her to complain about. She left the training area, took herself a refreshing shower, and quickly met up with Naruto in the lower caverns. He noticed those who Azu had deemed not releasing. If there was one thing that Na had to praise the Red Dragon for, then it was at least capable of categorizing their merchandise based on priority. "If I may ask, what do you plan to do with them?" Azumi asked. Na chuckled as he walked past those of uninterest to him. "Let's answer your question with another question. What should I plan to do with them?" Na asked. Izumi thought this over for a moment. Na never slowed his walk and waited for her to answer. Naruto had to say he could sympathize with Shikamaru a bit more now. All this thinking, there had to be times where one just wished to be lazy. It was nice, but it was definitely not his style. Then again, having so many memories and experiences flooding his head was rather disorientating. "I suppose since they were of the group who refused to work for your cause, then you'll find some other use for them. You have many political figures down here and even some other shinobi who still resist. Your central focus would be around them?" Izumi asked. Naruto's smile widened. After 2 minutes passed Na in front of a cage. He stared down at a man. The man glared up at him. He covered himself with a barely recognizable hideously torn blanket. I told T that, from before that I would rather die than help dishonorable people like you. A child like you will not last long in the world of men. He said all the while shivers ran down his body from the cold. Izumi glared at the man as well. But Naruto seemed hardly concerned. How about we put that statement to the test? I don't need to last in a world of men. I just need to last in my world. Na paused and opened the cell doors. He stepped before the man with his hand extended. Both the man and Izumi watched blood seep from the blonde's open pores before fashioning itself into a blade. He pointed it at the man's throat. And do you know what kind of world that is? Na asked. The man fell silent. Though he was cold, the blade of blood felt very warm. It almost felt like it was alive. In fact, his eyes stared down. He could see tiny spears piercing from the blade as if transforming it into a weapon of unseen horror. They poked at the man's neck. His own life essence spilled forth. A world where I get to see the hope and life drain away from everyone. Just like Konoha taught me. Just like I can teach you. His voice a lull that dulled the senses. He took the blade away and turned around while they merely stared at him. His voice and resolve gone. Izumi, take him and prepare him for what we discussed earlier this morning. Anbu NC Han should be heading back soon and will need to talk a lot. San here to get ready. Also, break one of his arms. Naruto ordered. The man gasped in shock as Naruto walked out of the cell. The young boy turned to the quivering man. His eyes teemed with the color of red. Perhaps it will teach you to not call my girls names from now on. That should be the first lesson for a Water Daniel's son. Choose your own words carefully. Naruto spoke and walked away. He turned around a corner and the blood-curdling screams which filled the jail cell made him smile. His eyes turned to each prisoner. Each of them looked away from him. The very blood within their veins racing from fear. No doubt the other prisoners were quite quick to lose their bravado. After all, animals tend to learn their place when the ones with the most bite are dealt with. XU frowned as she watched Uchiha Sasaki train by himself. He was right where Naruto claimed he would be. He threw Kana and Shuriken with aggression and rage. Yet, there was some semblance of prodigal skill that she had not seen in most of the other children that she was called to observe. Naruto had tasked her with monitoring a list of children from his academy class for at least half an hour every week. She had finished the Yamanaka and the N. Now, she had to deal with the antisocial one. She didn't know why her lord was interested in him, but she wasn't going to go against orders. The young redhead frowned. She did not know why the Uchiha seemed familiar to her. It's not like she had seen him before. Or perhaps she had. She couldn't recall. However, he definitely seemed familiar. She shook her head from atop the tree branch. His kanai throw was off. It was very good for a genin, but obvious improvements could be made. Again, she was not sure where those improvements came from, but they seemed very instinctual. A breath escaping her, she decided to make her presence known. She stepped into the field and she watched Sasaki throw one more kanai before he became aware of the sounds of her footsteps. He stopped his practice. What do you want? If you're here to interrupt my practice, then Sasaki stopped speaking when he stared at the woman. Her eyes looked down upon him, yet surprise was evident upon his face. Ka-san, Sasaki asked, his voice almost a tiny whisper of disbelief. Azu blinked. It seemed as if the word and its definition were a lost translation to her very being. Excuse me, Usuzu asked. Sasaki stiffened. His face then quickly contorted into rage, and he turned his head to the side. He then growled and picked up his things. Nothing. What is it? I'm training. If you have nothing to say, then get lost. Sasaki ordered rather angrily. Usuzu raised an eyebrow, but disregarded the tone the Uchiha had just dealt to her. She reached into her robe and pulled out a scroll. She then held it in front of the boy. This is for you. My master asked me to give it to you. There will be an item inside. Make sure you're near a television when you see it. Have a good day, Sasuke-san. She said with a bow before leaving him alone. Sasaki watched her out of the corner of his eye. Anger flushed through his face again when he looked at the scroll she had given him. He then went back to his training. Meanwhile, Azu entered Konoha slightly perplexed by the words which came from the young. She placed her head in her hands for a moment. The movement of people seemed to fade away. He felt familiar as well, but she did not understand why. She touched her temple. Just thinking about it gave her a headache. Perhaps she should ask Naruto to take her back to the doctor. In the meantime, she would have her other target to work on. Thankfully, Mizuki's apartment wasn't very far. She appeared in front of the door. A quick glance through the window. She noticed that no one was home. Ryūzetsu frowned before leaving a scroll hanging off the edge of his door. From the plan that Na gave her, she had to leave it on the doorknob this way. She was not sure why, but she did as she was instructed. The redhead then quickly made herself scarce before anyone would notice her. Once she stepped back into the streets, she found herself staring at the Konoha populace. These people, this village, and the lands which they all walked, her lord hated them all. He did not ask that she hate Konoha as she assumed he might have. Even now, she could feel the blood within her that she had taken from him begin to boil. Just its heated desire for revenge was fueling her own anger. Perhaps he was making her feel a growing animosity towards the Konoha people, or was he enhancing the inner mechanisms of her mind, which housed her memories of her own hatred? Ryūzetsu stiffened when she felt the bump of her shoulder with another. She turned around and noticed she had bumped into a silver-haired man. He smiled at her. "Ah, sorry about that. Have a good day," he said with a smile before he continued walking. As soon as Ryūzetsu felt her eyes land on him, she balled her fists. Unparalleled rage filled her body, and she could feel a spring of chakra surge from her body hard enough to crack the ground beneath her feet. Her chakra was so great, the shinobi within the vicinity stopped the daily activities, and quickly scanned the area for the hostile power, which had suddenly come down upon the populace. But it had spread so much that none were able to ascertain the location of it. Ryūzetsu even watched the silver-haired Jonin look around, his form suddenly tense and rigid. When he turned around, he saw that she was gone, and so was the malice which held the air like a prison. The former slave turned around a corner and breathed a sigh. She did not like him. That man, she did not like him. Was this what her master had? This deep-seated hatred for Konoha people, she could that she had it as well. That man of silver hair. Just thinking about him made her want to run after him and strangle him until she saw the blood seep from that exposed eye of his. She did not know why he filled her with unbridled rage, but she was almost close to alerting a squad of shinobi to her location aside from the ones who were already around. Yet, she felt the need to punch something. She hoped her lord would allow her more training. First, the Uchiha and now that one-eyed man. "What's wrong with me?" she asked before she continued moving on. The power which had surged through her felt very reminiscent. Ryūzetsu grunted and touched her forehead. She could feel her head bouncing. Perhaps her body wasn't as together as she thought it was. Then again, she was sure her mind wasn't together either. Ryūzetsu kept walking. Her lord had given her other tasks and she would see them done, but when she returned, then she prayed for rest. She felt like she needed it. The sounds of club music played above the underground floors while Naruto sat in his chair. He sighed. "And to think I have to go back to that pathetic academy like some dressed-up clown. Tisk. Well, it could be worse. At least I'll be able to advance my goals a bit further. Especially if Usu-chan is finished with her assignments. Izumi should have things in place as well for the coming weeks," Naruto said. His eyes fell for a moment, his tongue cursed. Try as he might, advance his mind as he might. His body could not keep up. He hadn't been sleeping great these days. He pushed himself back from the desk he had been working on. "So, how was your day off?" Na asked the Ambu next to him. Yuga frowned when she looked at him, but she cleared her throat. "I've been training. The new recruits make for welcoming stress relievers," she admitted. It was no surprise to either just what she meant by that statement. Naruto's grin widened, but he didn't reply to her. Then again, he had seen the training procedures she had passed on to the new Ambu recruits. Who knew such a young boy could get under a professional shinobi's skin? Again, he wasn't even surprised when she told new recruits to keep their masks on. He knew what she was trying to do, but it didn't matter. If he needed that information, then he could always make another command if truly needed. "So if I could so graciously know, what is your plan for Uchiha Sasake and the others? You have nothing but animosity towards him. But the Chunin Mizuki has been nothing but fair to you. Why involve someone that you hate and someone who's been fair to you?" Yuga asked. Na balanced a glass cup on the table with his forefinger. His eyes lingered on the apple cider inside. He then stared at the ceiling. He hoped he could get a massage from his training earlier. You know, it might be that I'm still 10. But I do still hate Sasaki. I at least know why now. After all, I did shift though about 10 hours of business memories. Turns out Shion and his wife had his own hate as well. So maybe I have an answer for it now. Sasaki was always better than me. He had what I wanted. Good shinobi skills, recognition, family, and the girls at school would practically drop their premature panties for the guy who says only men are perv. Na questioned off, which got a glare from Yuga, but he ignored that as well. From the memories I've had to watch, you ladies come up with some weird stuff, but anyway, we're not here to discuss that. Truth be told, I don't know what I'm going to do with Sasaki yet. Perhaps I'll corrupt Konoha's golden boy. Imagine Konoha's reaction when the Kyuubi brat uses the Uchiha to burn the village to the ground. Rather interesting poetic justice, don't you think, the blonde asked. Yuga did not respond. Na didn't expect her to. He finished off his drink. Besides, you might think I'm doing this out of spite, but I'm just being what Konoha told me to be. I'm giving them what they all wanted, and I'll make use of any advantage I can get. As for Mizuki, I have wonderful plans for my fair teacher. Naruto responded until both heard a knock at the door. The blonde allowed the person to enter. Both saw Usuzume come through. All tasks are done, my lord. I would like to ask for the night off. My head has been hurting since I bumped into a jonin, she said. Na rose an eyebrow. Yuga did the same. All right, I don't mind that. However, before you go, tell me what led up to this headache. Do you need to go back to the doctor? He asked. Usuzu thought over his question for a moment. I don't believe so. It was ever since I had observed Uchiha Sasaki. When I gave him the scroll under the guise of a delivery, he called me Kasen, Usuzu said. Naruto's eyes shined red under the low glow of light within his office. Oh well, this was surprising information. So Uchiha Sasaki was a bit of a mama's boy. How interesting. Then after I left Mizuki's apartment, I bumped into a jonin with silver hair. He wore his hitty over the side of his face. He apologized to me, but I quickly got angry when I saw him. I got so angry I almost alerted the area to my chakra. Since then, I've had my headache, she claimed. Yuga blinked. It sounded like she had come into contact with Hitaki Kakashi, her former Ambu captain. Yua turned and she noticed Naruto looking at her. She shivered. Oh. Right. He had seen her memories. It was obvious he also knew that. It was also obvious that she was not going to like the words that came out of her mouth in the coming minutes. I do not like him, my lord. I do not like him at all. I think I slowly understands hate. Usuzu replied. Na fought hard to keep a grin from appearing and splitting his face. Oh boy. Now this was even better than what he had planned. There was a reason he had not delved into the mysteries about Usuzu just yet. It was just that it was a mystery that he wanted to solve. This was an interesting piece. I see. Well, you go get some rest. You'll have training in the morning. You did well today, Na remarked. Usuzu bowed and then exited the room. As soon as the door closed, Naruto didn't even have to order his Ambu friend to do it before Yuga was speaking. She already knew the order was coming, so it was a save of her mental resistance. Hitaki Kakashi, he's the only John I know who matches that description. This isn't going to be a short information rundown, Yuga replied. Na placed his feet on his desk. What did he care? He wasn't going anywhere. He allowed her to continue. Thus, Yugauki told Naru Uzumaki from A to Z everything she knew about Kakashi Haki. Sasaki placed his dishes in the sink after eating his dinner. He walked into his room with the scroll the woman gave him. He cursed and then threw the scroll on his bed. He hadn't been able to stop thinking about that woman all day. It was distracting him from his training, and even worse, it was reminding him of memories he did not want to have. The young Uchiha took off the rest of his clothes and took a quick shower. Once this was done, his eyes fell on the scroll once more. He undid the wrapping and unfurled the scroll. Applying the chakra that he had, he noticed a small videotape. He turned it over. The only thing written upon its label was Tasatsuki-chan. It was a name that the Uchiha absolutely loathed. His mother had always said that if he were born a girl, then that's what she would have named him. He walked over to his television and opened up the cabinet below which housed his cassette recorder. He pushed the video inside and he turned on his TV. He sat on his bed as he watched white noise filled the screen. It happened like this for about 2 minutes, which quickly annoyed the Uchiha heir, and just before he was about to turn off the TV and destroy the tape, the white noise ceased. "Hello, Sasaki," a garbled and disfigured voice answered from the other side of the tape. Sasaki took a step back. He glanced left and right. But the voice continued. "Who I am is irrelevant. Where I am is even more irrelevant. However, what is relevant is how much you want to revenge the Uchiha clan for what your brother did to them." Sasaki stiffened. His teeth instantly sethed. He was ready to turn the tape into dust. But the voice quickly stopped him. "Good. I have your attention. That got you going, didn't it? Love, hate, sadness, happiness together, alone, sun, moon, they are all a part of the same coin. For your revenge, Sasaki, how much are you willing to give up? How much are you willing to hate? You see, Uchiha Sasaki, Katsuhi Mizuki, Midarashi, Anko, Inuzuka, Hana, I want to play a game," the voice said to the 4 individuals looking upon their TV screens. "I tall uoaina pua say shush h top." A man cried upon the ground, his right eye purple and bruised, his teeth scattered across the floor and body torn from the increased cuts, bleeds, and lacerations placed upon him. He coughed a glob of blood from his mouth. His distorted vision stared up at the ceiling lights. All perception of time and feeling seemed so fleeting. It was like he couldn't even breathe. Soon the lights were darkened by the shadow of Midarashi Enko standing over her defeated target. She grabbed him by collar. "Good. Now I can use you for some good stress relief. It's unprofessional, but it will make me feel better. I've had a pretty shitty week," Enko said before she raised her fist and brought it down on the man's face. For about 7 minutes, TNI agents of Konoha watched Anko batter and bruise her assignment with relentless, heated anger. The sounds of her strikes to his body were heard across the thick see-through glass. The man's wails resounded through the open speakers. At the 3rd minute, one of the agents left to quickly get Ibiki Morino, the head of the department. Thankful was the sentiment shared by all. When the man came through the door, his hard, unforgiving gaze glared at the window. He saw the scene unfold and grunted. That was the 2nd one this week. He opened the door. "Anko, that's enough. Put him down," Ibiki ordered. He watched Anko's reared fist come to a stop. She turned around and her eyes burned into Ibiki's. The latter took the moment to stare at his subordinate's handiwork. The tiniest whimpers from her victim told him that the man was still alive. The guy would be lucky if he were even eating food from a straw. The scarred John and then turned back to her. For the past week, Anko held a very short fuse. She treated her co-workers poorly. She performed her craft brutally upon those assigned to her, and any attempts of Ibiki to treat her to dango had only made her angrier. This had been the 2nd call this week he had been told to stop. "I won't tell you again. Take the rest of the day off so you can get your head right, and I won't inform Hokage-sama about this incident either," Ibiki said. Enko sucked her teeth. "Gee, how gracious of you, Ibiki-sama, I'm so not worthy of your mercy." "Not my problem. I'm overqualified for my job." "Fine, I was bored of him anyway," Enko said. She dropped the battered man to the ground and walked out of the room, bumping shoulders with Ibiki as she did so. Out of the corner of her eye, she watched her fellow shinobi whispering in a corner of the room. Her frown deepened, however, she found herself moving out of the room and then out of the building. Enko balled her fists. She then slammed it against the wall. "Am I really this pitiful? What have I been working so hard for?" Enko thought. She closed her eyes. Ever since that damn video, she had found her life spiraling down into nothingness. "You see, Midarashi Enko, I want to play a game." The voice spoke through the white noise upon her screen. Anko took a step back and armed herself with a weapon. While the voice spoke, she turned her home upside down, looking for any bugs, traces, or infiltration devices. The words he said at that time had seemed lost to her, for her attention was not on them, but on everything else. She found none, and this did not help alleviate her rising paranoia. "Now then, once you are done wondering if you've been bugged, then I may continue. You see, Midarashi Anko, you have been called many things, some of them nice and most of them appalling, but there is a word which describes you, and it is what makes you so laughably pitiful," the voice mocked. Enko snarled at the screen and she fought down the urge to ram her fist through it, but she had paid good money for her TV. She didn't want to ruin it. She realized she could stop the tape, but like a strange woven spell, she found herself entranced. Angry, but entranced. As I have learned, there is no point in attempting to chance the minds of men to what you say you are. Instead, I find value in living up to expectations. And who has more expectations than children? Everyone has a favorite snack, a favorite sweet and favorite delicacy. Go back to your childhood Midashi. Find the treats which make you happy. What makes children happy? After all, the only one worse than you is better than you in nearly every capacity. If you can't uncover this secret in 1 month, then you'll never have your answers to the following statement. The voice claimed. There was a pause. An unsettling silence worked its way over her room. On the one hand, she wished this silence could last forever. On the other hand, it is great and it is small, a hefty title which lods the tongues of men, yet fills the bellies of children. Whether by men or by child, there is joy to be found in its utters. That is what one might call humans. That is what Konoha has made of the woman. Midarashi, the voice explained. Tisk riddles. I don't have the time for this. I need to warn Hokage-sama. Enko said to herself. However, the voice must have snapped his fingers because she heard a snap that brought her attention back to the screen. She noticed an Ambu standing under a dense light. It was much too dark to see anything else. Ah, yes, Hokage-sama, Serbi-heen. Of course, you desire to seek comfort among him. Such as obvious. However, I told you before Midarashi, I want to play a game. The only players are you and I. We're not here to include others because you see the issue with other players is you can never guess the true intentions. Nay, Anbu NC Han, the voice asked. Anko watched the Anbu straighten up, yet they did not remove their mask. However, their voice spoke. Mission Folder X5QW12DV43 ordained by decree of Hisan Sirobi Sandame Hokage of Kanohagaka Nosado. Surveillance of potential flight risk Midarashi Anko has come into effect. The individual in question is to be continually monitored for signs of defection following recent connection to the Snake Sanin or Okimaru. Jonan Anoiki Yamanaka to relay all psych evaluations to the Hokage. What John and I Morino assigned monitoring and reporting daily activities, mood changes, behavioral patterns, and tendency towards violence not specified by Shinobi protocol. Shut up, Jonan. Karani Yui assigned, shut up. Enko screamed at the television. The snap of fingers made the Ambu quickly stop talking as the footage once again faded to black. Anko clenched the soft carpet of her floors. Her face contorted with utter rage, her teeth pushed against each other, and she did not close her eyes, even when the tears threatened to fall from her face. Within Konoha, you will learn as I have learned. Show none mercy, show none trust, show none respect. However, if you can find what makes you so pi-fichal Midarashi and Enko, then I shall give you what you truly desire. Come and find me, for I shall never lie to you, the voice said. And the only sound that was left to her was from her TV. What I truly desire? Enko asked. For the past week, Anko had been trying to find the source of this riddle without success. Each attempt only made her angrier. This frustration in combination with her increasing rage against the people she had assumed to be friends was quickly driving her mad. No doubt Abiki was already jotting down his notes to the Hokage about her attitude. Maybe I wouldn't have an attitude if you trusted me more. Enko snarled out. She entered the comfort of her home and closed the door. She then threw the covers over her head. Why didn't she deserve to be happy too? I don't understand why you told her to trust no one only to then claim that you would never lie to her. Isn't that going to be counterproductive? Yuao asked from in front of the door which led to Naruto's shower. What's with the sudden interest in my plans? What happened to maintaining that legendary Ambu silence and not speaking a word to me unless I command you to? Na asked. He smiled when he opened the door, his wet hair releasing drops of water onto the floor and a towel wrapped around his waist. Yuga would release a growl, but she was much too tired to give the blonde the satisfaction. She only settled for a huff. Rest assured, I would still cut your head off if I could, Yuga replied. She hoped there was as much steel behind her voice as she wanted there to be. However, she only watched Na make a childish face at her before returning to his shower. Believe it or not, Anbu Nikan, We orphans are not complex basket cases. If you can prove to us that you have what we need, then we're yours forever. I'm going to give Midiashi Anko the one thing you guys never could. If you think about it, the reason this might be successful is because Konoha lacks a distinct type of faith in her shinobi. Hey, the will of fire. What nonsense, Naruto uttered as he brushed his teeth. You said nothing. She could only grit her teeth and bear the remarks he made about her home nation. She watched him put on his clothes and grab his things for school. But then what are you doing with Uchiha Sasaki? Why are you making that woman Usuzu do this? Yuao asked. She watched Naruto open the door to leave. He faced her. Because I find there to be an interesting sense of poetic justice in the pariah of Konoha controlling the actions and whims of the last. It makes for a good novel, don't you think? The blonde asked as he closed the door behind him, leaving Yuga alone. Truth be told, class was very boring. The excitement only began when he discreetly followed Sasaki to his regular training area. The blonde settled himself in a tree about 5-10 feet from the raven-haired boy. He watched Sasaki train his heart out. As much as Naruto was loath to admit it, on his own Sasaki was very talented. Talent, he supposed, was there to be appreciated. He had come to learn that when absorbing the memories of so many people who had accomplished great things, where talent was shown, then people flocked to it. Like moths to a great flame, they desired to be consumed by the flames of that talent. Perhaps before this time, he had been swept up in Sasuke's talent as well. It pushed him to be better. What nonsense, he was already better, he just hadn't been aware of it at the time. Let's see. Usuzu-chan should be here in another. Right on time. Naruto grinned as he watched his mysterious servant come into the fields with an herb basket. He rested his head against the body of the tree. Honestly, sometimes he wondered if he was having fun or if he was being cruel. Perhaps it was a little bit of both. He saw that Azu had noticed him. He waved to her expecting a good performance. Azu bowed to him and then continued on her path. The red hue from Naruto's eyes shined. Sasaki-san, it's a pleasure to meet you again. Still hard at work, I see, Azu said with a smile. She watched Sasaki grunt as he picked up his things. The glare he had sent towards her told her that he did not wish to be disturbed. However, she quickly disregarded it. It was hardly a threatening look. What are you doing here? Why are you following me? Sasaki asked. This had been the second time he had encountered the woman. He did not want to tell her that she had left a mystifying impression upon him. He could not help but think about her sometimes, and it was utterly infuriating. Now that she was in front of him again, he was not sure what he could say to her. However, he heard her chuckle. He had to be going mad. It was the same way his mother used to laugh. Oh, I'm so sorry, my prince. I did not know these lands were thine domain. Please do not strike me down with thine fury. She jested. She watched the Uchiha's brow furrow with anger. However, he did not speak further. Honestly, the boy was very easy to rile up. No doubt this was one of the things she was supposed to be observing. She only hoped that she did not receive a headache like the last time. The joking aside, I did not mean to interrupt you. Continue with your training. I'm just going to collect some herbs, she claimed. She then waved him goodbye. Sasaki turned around and resumed what he had been doing. Na continued to watch this. Even from where he sat, he could see the motions of blood which made Sasaki turn his head. Though the Uchiha tried very hard to hide it, Naruto could see that the academy student was entirely enraptured by his servant. And yet Na did not know why. Perhaps that Ka-chan comment needed looking into. Then again, if Sasuke wanted a mother, then who was Naruto to deny him? After all, the Kyuubi Gingariki was known for his selfless attitude. Meanwhile, Sasaki kept on training. He tried various Kai and Shuriken practice targets. He performed the Katazabuki her clan taijutsu, and he performed the basic hand signs for the Kaiden techniques, which he was able to use. However, no matter how hard he tried, his eyes lingered on the woman for longer than he would have liked. She was the one who had delivered that videotape to him, and the voice behind it had said so many things which angered him. However, none of them was more than Konoha having ordered his brother to kill his clan. If that was true, then the village would be the next to face his wrath. Yet, why would someone tell him this? Was it to make him give up his revenge on Itachi? Was it to make him hate Konoha? Or was it even some cruel joke that he had unknowingly been upon in a grander scheme? Either way, he absolutely hated it. Sasaki walked over to the woman and stood before her. I have a question for you, he quickly claimed. He stood over her, his shadow blocking her from collecting what she needed. However, the young failed to see the smile which came on Usuzu's lips. The young woman turned around. Oh. Well, since you have questions, would you mind helping me pick some herbs? You can just place them in the basket, she said. She could hear the Uchiha give a slight curse, but he must have held his tongue because she heard no retort. Minutes seemed to pass by in slow motion as Sasaki picked the herbs around the field. Whether he was aware of it or not, the young stole glances at the woman of red hair while she pulled vegetation by its roots from the earth. However, he never could have known that she knew he was watching her. He did not know why looking at her made him so angry. Every time he looked at her, it was as if knots were turning in his stomach. Unwelcome thoughts of his mother intruded into his mind without rest. Nightmares of that night became more frequent, but they were also accompanied by those bittersweet memories from before then. Sasaki had enough of the silence. Who is your boss? What does he want with me? Sasaki asked. Usuzu was fairly certain that they were safe. She did not know how she knew this, but she was pretty confident. So, she spoke. The first question, I can't tell you. You haven't proven yourself privy to that information yet. As for the second question, he originally didn't seek you, but I asked him to. I had been watching you a long time, Sasaki. I know what it's like. That desire for vengeance, that loneliness which no one else understands, and lies carried by those you once thought closest. When I learned what this village did to you, just as they had done to me, I knew you would be perfect for our organization. We will give you the strength to bring your enemies to their knees, she claimed. Sasaki tried to keep the smile off his face. That sounded too good to be true. There was no way this was all they wanted. He didn't say it, but behind the woman's gentle tone laid a fiery sting of rage that resonated within him. So, she too had been stung by betrayal and suffering as he had. Unfortunately, the woman didn't wait for his reply. However, she handed him 2 cards. You're just like me, Sasaki. People offering sympathies, pity, and condolences like these herbs. They offer relief for a moment, but they only remind you of the pain when they're gone. This village Sasaki is profiting its happiness of the lives of our families. If you will join us, give this red card to Uzumaki-na. He is a central part of our plans, though he is unaware of it yet. I hear he's the dead last of the academy, yet even he has his uses, pathetic as he is. If you don't wish to embark upon your revenge, then place this blue card back here in the field. We won't meet again, she said. She then did something which surprised the young. She kissed him on top of his head. His body shivered. That was almost like his mother used to do. He watched her leave without a word. He then looked down at the 2 cards in his hands. Uchiha Sasaki suddenly growled. What use could the Dobby have in his revenge against Itachi? Even more than that, what did she mean? The village gained its happiness from his family and hers. There were too many questions and not enough answers. However, there was one thing he did understand. They had power, and that was enough for him. Na and Yuga watched Sasaki leave the area. Not a minute later did Usuzu appear at the bottom of the tree they had been on. The blonde found himself clapping. Excellent performance, Azu-chan. Perhaps I should have you working for movies, he replied. Usuzu wasn't sure if that was a compliment or not, but she decided to take it as one. Na-sama, if I may ask, why would you want me to be close to him? I thought you hated him, Azu said. She watched Na lean his head back against the bark of the tree. A smirk appeared. There was no indication that this smirk held any evil intent, but the look of bloodlust in the blonde's eyes was hard to miss. Because Usuzu-chan, the best type of corruption, is willing corruption, Na replied. XA folder was dropped to the ground. I'm sorry, Hana, but the results don't lie. Inuzuka-sama isn't your mother. In fact, you have no blood relation to any of the Inuzuka clan. We have found traces of Inuzuka blood that isn't matched with your own original cells, which might explain why you were able to perform. Get out, Inuzuka. Hana, daughter of Inuzuka and sister of Inuzuka, claimed. The doctor in question took a small step back before Hana growled at him. Get thee out, she screamed. The doctor bowed, but quickly left and closed the door. This left Hana alone on the hospital bed. A nightmare. This had to be a nightmare. That video, it wasn't true. It couldn't be true. Her mother wouldn't do that to her. It had to be a lie. Yet Hana kept looking at the folder and the words were not changing. That voice from the video was taunting her, laughing at her, crushing her until she could no longer stand it. His story, it wasn't going away. None of it was going away. That's right, Inuzuka-san. Do you feel it? The dread creeping inside you. You feel it in your blood. You know I'm right. You, Inuzuka Hana, are nothing more than the byproduct of shinobi science and medicine. In the Inuzuka clan's attempts of becoming closer to their canine companions, you were an egg crafted from both human and canine DNA. You were deemed a failure along with the other 200 subjects, but you survived. Canine DNA and human DNA perfectly melted within you. You were the first of a leading breed. You were the first of what the Inuzuka clan dubbed dog soldiers. The distorted voice said. Hana stared at the television screen. No, this had to be some kind of sick joke. She was not some freak experiment. And before you begin attempting to rationalize this statement, I have a question for you. Do you, a 16-year-old chunin, have a curfew on nights with a full moon? It asked. Hana's mind was racing faster than she could ever remember. Yes, she remembered just recently during a full moon that Sam had told her to be back before the sunset. Hana didn't think anything of it at the time. Why would she? Her family always had a special dinner prepared for them on those nights. Plus, they were few and far in between, so why should they matter? But nevertheless, they did happen. You don't need to answer. I already know you do because it's part of their attempt to chain you down, Dog Soldier-chan. The distorted tape spoke. Hana was not sure, but she felt there was a malicious grin behind that statement. What? This was all Hana in Orca could think. She heard a piece of paper and a flipping sound. Every full moon, the dinner is ribs, pot pie, steamed rice, corn, lettuce, biscuits, and a nice serving of oh so delicious ice cream. Did I get all of that? He asked. No, he didn't get all of that. He was close, but it was obvious he was missing the, oh, haha, silly me. How could I forget your absolute favorite lamb kebabs? The voice finished. Hana's blood ran cold. She wanted to stop the video, but her hands wouldn't move. That was all true. Every single night, that was what her mother made. She never explained why. She only claimed it was Inuzuka tradition for her family. Hana never questioned it. Good food was good food. What was so unordinary about that? It was as if this voice was mocking her. My, you certainly eat well. They must be more scared of your canine half than even I suspected. Now then, did you ever feel sleepy after this meal? It asked. What? Of course, she didn't. The Inuzuka body was made to handle large quantities of meat. She was able to eat so much because of that. Sure, she didn't seem to get as tired as her mother and brother, but that didn't mean. Yes, I assume you didn't. And why wouldn't you? Until you finish it with a glass of mother's homemade apple cider, it replied. Hana snarled and jumped to her feet. She was too angry. She could feel her consciousness slipping. She seemed to forget that she was talking to a TV, but she shouted, "Get to the point, damn it." She told it. She was utterly trembling. Please, get to the point. What did this all mean? Why was he telling her this? Thankfully, the world seemed to hear her as the voice spoke. You were the first successful dog soldier, Hana Inuzuka, but you were too successful. You were too strong. You were too developed when you were born. Those who authorized the project feared that you wouldn't be able to control your canine half, so they tempered it. What's the best way to keep a dog satisfied? Lots of meat and calcium. On nights of the full moon, your blood would awaken. You would feel more energetic than you ever felt in your life. That was your body readying for release, but you never received it. Your beast half was sedated and your human half was regulated. A nice mixture of apple cider does the trick. You go to bed none the wiser. Perhaps in as few as 5 years you would be back in an underground facility and bred to make more dog soldiers even stronger than you once you were under control. Haven't you ever wondered why you were more even-tempered than most in Isuka? And no, Hana-chan, it's not because you were more in tune with your human side. It's because your beast half is too dangerous to let out. You are a literal, __, on a leash wagging her tail for the Inuzuka clan. There have even been some speculations by your own family members on why you need 3 dogs as your partners. Tears. Tears fell down Hannah's face. No, that wasn't true. That couldn't be true. It was just a coincidence. She had a loving mother and a loving but stupid little brother. The Inuzuka family was about loyalty and family. They would never treat her like that. It was a lie. It had to be a lie. You might be wondering why I am telling you this. You see, in Isuka Hannah, I want to play a game. Go have a true test given to you. I shall be waiting for you. Are you a dog created in a lab, or are you a powerful beast swelling with pride and anger? If you are the latter, then Hannah crushed the folder in her hands. Every single statistic about her body read abnormal. The doctor had claimed more tests would be needed, but Hannah didn't want them. She had received the answer she needed. She absolutely abhorred it, but would she be able to run from it? The young Inuzuka felt lightheaded. She thought she was going to pass out. She wanted to go home, but where was that? How many people were in on it? Who created her? She was supposed to be some new breed of super shinobi, but then she would be chained and bred for more. She could feel herself blanking out. Her world was breaking. The next time Hannah was aware of herself, she was dressed and walking through the hospital halls. She left the hospital. Her thoughts were a daze. These streets she used to walk filled with such deception that she was never aware of. Even now she feared looking up at the setting sun. Was she truly going to turn into some kind of beast? She didn't know. She didn't want to know. Who could she trust? Who could she talk to? In Isuzuka, where are you going? You can't leave yet. I understand you're upset, but please don't walk away from this. I think we need more tests. The doctor said. Tests. The doctor touched her shoulder. Within Hannah's mind, the hospital began to fade away. Perhaps it was the stress. Perhaps it was the voice from the videotape. Perhaps it was the truth which had come crashing down on her. Hell, perhaps she was just crazy. But in Isuka, Hannah snapped. Do not touch me, Hannah growled out, her voice, a tone shift deeper than it had been previously. The doctor shivered as he took a step back in slight worry. The nurses and patients who had been in the area watched the interaction in stunned silence. Hannah could feel her blood pumping, her heart racing, and her breath shortening. Kill him. Kill all of them. How many? How many of them were in on it? How many people knew? They were all waiting to put her down like a rabid animal. But if she made an example out of one of them, then maybe, yes, maybe, they would learn who they were messing with. Hannah slowly marched towards the doctor. Her steps were heavy and their clack was like a resounding boom in her ears. She grabbed the doctor's shoulders. Inuka-san, the doctor asked. He stared into her eyes. Her once human pupils took on the shape of a great beast bearing down upon him. Her mouth formed a vicious smile. I don't need any more of your help. She sneered at him, the smile breaking. She let him go and walked away. What was happening to her? You see, Inuzuka Hannah, I want to play a game. She recalled that voice. It was all she had. Did she trust this voice? No, but it was all she had. She had no one else that she could confide in. She had no one else who would understand the inner turmoil which was threatening to break her into pieces. She wanted to scream. She wanted to curse her family. She was too scared to go back home. Where could she go? If you are the latter, then seek the fox which plays among the children. I shall be waiting, mighty wolf, the voice said. Hannah's frown deepened. She stared forward. Someone she did not know who yet was going to pay dearly for this. Here is the video footage. Please don't terminate my husband's medical costs. A nurse claimed, placing the video on a table. She had just finished her shift and she had quickly done what had been asked of her. The other side of the room was covered in darkness, but she watched an Anbu take the video footage. No doubt giving it to the man in question. You did your job and that's put me in a good mood. Don't ruin it with your pitiful talk. I show the kind woman out, he said. The nurse gasped as another woman stepped forward. The nurse jumped to her feet. But you said whatever the woman was going to say was cut off when I grabbed her by the arm. Get out before you find yourself joining your husband, the young threatened. The woman quickly got the idea and left him alone. Once she was gone, Na leaned back in his chair. Stupid woman. Butchers don't make deals with pigs. In any case, Na placed the vidip into a video cassette recorder. As he watched the footage, his grin got even bigger. I suppose every village does whatever is necessary to become stronger, sacrificing the few for the many. How quaint. Then again, that is how most organizations work. Don't you think, Yuga-chan? Na asked. He could feel the slight tension inside her body. Blood concentrated itself to her fists. No doubt she was clenching to keep her mouth shut. Try as Yuga might, she had no retort. What was she supposed to say? Of course, she knew that Konoha wasn't some holy land of the people. It was still a shinobi village. She had seen horrors that would make even veteran shinobi quit their careers. She had killed traitors to the village, and she had killed those who knew too much. Yet, watching the spirit-crushing revelations from Inuzuka Hana, one of her best friends, made her tremble. Worst was that she didn't even want to tell Hana that she knew as well. Yugao had been one of the Andrew assigned to the project. She was also one of the shinobi tasked with monitoring Hana in case she was deemed a threat. Yes, it had started out as a mission. But Yuga truly thought of Hana as her friend at this moment. Why are you exploiting her like this? What do you hope to gain from this? Yuga asked. Naruto's response was a snort. He placed his feet on the table. Exploiting, aren't you her dear old friend? Doing that all on your own. If anything, I kind of sympathize with her. I did have it rough, but I think she's coming to a close second. I suppose it just shows that one truly has to pick their friends, especially in a village of shinobi. To think that even your own home would be against you. The irony isn't lost on me. Oh well, time to begin the next phase of the plan, Naruto said, shutting down the office. He was ready to go home and rest. Honestly, the nightlife wasn't as fun as he assumed it was. Oh, and Usuzu-chan cut off that pig's husband's medical funding for 24 hours, Naruto claimed. While the redhead was obviously confused, she did not seek to question him on why he would do this. Yes, sir, she replied and left to inform the appropriate accountants of this recent development. Izumi, however, did not have the same lack of curiosity. The female Uchiha came to the side. What does that hope to accomplish? You're only going to make that nurse lady freak out, she explained. Na merely smirked and turned around in his chair. Exactly. I want to see her face when, after all her pleading, the hope drains from her eyes just like mine did. Besides, I remember her face very well, Na explained. He offered no more on the issue. Izumi didn't bother asking. Neither did Yuga. They merely stared at the video footage of Hana in Isuzuka, but Na was utterly fascinated by the maddening look of bloodlust in her eyes. Yes, such a perfect specimen to come into his growing fold. Na-sama, the 10-year-old, turned around, a sharp glare towards someone for interrupting his current entertainment. It was a man. Na didn't remember his name, but he had assumed that it was one of the former slaves from below. Apologies, but I understand you wanted a constant update to the shipment that went out this morning. It's gone very well. In fact, the clients of those who refused are paying double for the quality some have come in. Specifically, a Water Daniel's son. He will be arriving at the end of the week. Additionally, your reign has been announced. The underworld is not pleased by Takamura Shingen's disappearance. Per your instructions, no one knows who you are, but there is a note which came from a returned parcel. The parcel didn't survive, he said, placing the note on the table. Na raised an eyebrow. He grabbed the note. Suddenly, he crunched it in his palms. He could feel the blood within him stirring. He dug his nails into his skin. From the numerous memories which he had shifted through, this brought a grand smile to his face. Finally, you guys were beginning to bore me. I hope you're ready, Gigi. I'm going to drown your will of fire in a sea of blood. Na said, his eyes red with a burning lust for vengeance. Na sat at his desk. He stared out the window and into the beautiful fields of grass under the sun. A smile greeted his face, but it was not a simple smile. It was not a smile which was pleased that the sun was out, that the birds were singing, nor the pleasant wind against his face. He smiled because he could feel the burning, relentless gaze of Uchiha Sasaki on him. The host of the Keibi no Yoko closed his eyes. I bet it frustrates you, Sasaki. You never thought a loser born with nothing could be your path to power. Don't worry, I'll make sure to give you what you want. In return, I'm going to make proper use of you, Na exclaimed to himself. Na, are you paying attention? Or yelled at the blonde. Na exhaled. Honestly, his instructor was likely to get high blood pressure at this rate. The blonde glanced at the board. His eyes scanned the contents in a matter of moments and processed it. Granted, the memories helped with that. Unfortunately, that's what I'm told I should be doing. You're wasting your time, Iruka-sensei. More than half the students in this dumpster will only be good for feeding the worms and bugs in the ground. Why don't you be honest with them, sensei? They're only here to make the clan heirs look good. I mean, just look at all the pre-adolescent in this classroom willing to drop their panties, hoping to carry the next Uchiha lineage. Hey, it's no wonder none of the clan heirs, especially Sasaki, like any of you. I would talk about the boys, too, but I suppose even dung beetles have their uses, Naruto claimed. The whole class was stunned to silence. Most were utterly incapable of processing the words which came out of the blonde's mouth. Not even Iruka was capable of finding any speech to reprimand him. Naruto chuckled. Anyway, I just spoke the truth, Dad Bio. You were talking about the Second Great Shinobi War, right, sensei? The young man asked. That question seemed to unfreeze time as Iruka angrily marched up the desk stairs until he stood next to his young student. Naruto, apologize to your classmates. Right now, Iruka ordered. Naruto exhaled again. He could see his classmates channeling their anger at him. If they wanted to kill him with their stares, then no doubt he would have bursted into flames at this moment. Apologize for telling the truth. Don't make me laugh, sensei. I'm just crushing your feeble little hopes and dreams of the glamour of shinobi, just like you crushed mine, Naruto replied, which made Iruka shiver. However, the academy teacher slammed his book on the table. I won't tell you again. Apologize to everyone right now, Iruka repeated. With one eye open, Naruto glanced at his teacher. He rolled his eyes. Honestly, people were much too sensitive these days. He stood to his feet and sighed. Sorry for being rude like that, guys. I've just had a lot on my mind lately. I can't help thinking how insignificant pigs like your parents bred pathetic tubs of lard like you all. If there is one thing you have going for you is that you will all make wonderful home for the rotting maggots under the academy. You all should feel right at home there. Na claimed as he walked down the steps. No one said a word, but they watched Naruto walk with utter confidence. He came to the front of the door and pulled it open. But don't worry, I have wonderful plans for all of you, he said, and then closed the door behind him. Not a second after he left did the academy bell ring for lunchtime. Yet, no one moved for about a minute or so after. Meanwhile, Naruto happily took a deep, relaxing breath as the sun hit his face while he rested against a tree. Today was a good day. What could be much better? You're stupid, Dobby, but you're not that stupid. What was that all about? The Kaiba Ginuriki opened his eyes and noticed the Uchiha heir standing over him. Rest assured, Sasaki, this would be the only time Naruto would be looking up at you from now on. And why should I have to explain myself to you, Tim? Anyway, what do you want? Shouldn't you be your home right now or something? Oh, I suppose you're still 3 years off from it being consensual. Tough break, Na claimed. He thought he heard Sasaki grumble, but the blonde felt something strike his chest. He noticed it was a red card. His eyes gleamed. What the hell is this? I'm not your trash can, Na said, a frown on his face. He stared into Sasuke's eyes, but the Uchiha only returned his frown with a snarl. I don't know. Some woman told me to give it to you. Do whatever the hell you want with it. It doesn't concern me anymore, Sasaki replied. He then turned around and walked away. Once the blonde was sure the pre-adolescent bachelor was out of sight, he picked up the red card. Oh. Trust me, Satsuki-chan, this concerns you even more than your one-track pebrain mind can imagine. Now then, to deal with my second guest, Naruto replied. He could feel the strong heart beating a couple of trees away from him. Its pulse was much stronger than the average heart. Perhaps he should start making his riddles tougher. People were figuring them out too fast. He got up from the tree and walked away. His companion was close behind him. It didn't take Na long to reach a secluded area where he was sure they wouldn't be disturbed. He felt the toes of his feet shift through the dirt of an abandoned area. He had found himself visiting this particular place a lot. It served to remind him the end goals of his ambition. And to what do I owe the pleasure of being a recent victim of stalking Kibzoni-chan? Na asked. Hana frowned from where she stood. She did not have proof, but the aura around the Kyabi Ginryuki's body had changed. It felt menacing, evil, and disturbing. His head turned and his eyes stared directly at hers. He knew where she was. How he knew, she didn't know, but it was obvious he did. Now that she thought about it, he had taken her to a very abandoned part of the village. If she recalled, this section would be turned into more marketing quarters. Debris was everywhere. The Inuzuka stepped out from behind a corner. Na turned to face her. A mysterious smile decorated his face. The same could not be said for her. Uzuaki Na, you're the one who spoke on the videotape, Hana accused. She was not having a good day. She had barely slept, and she was in an irritable mood. It had taken her most of the night to solve that riddle. Truth be told, Hana hadn't planned on seeing Na during the lunch hour. She had planned to see him after school, but after dropping off Ka, not of her own choice, she decided to stick around. It was a pretty obvious riddle of one who understood the history of Konoha. The only thing which slightly scared Hana was that if Uzumaki Naruto was the one who brought her to the academy, then how did he know about the beast inside of him? Even more than that, she felt ridiculous thinking that a boy the age of her brother could be behind this. But it was the only route available to her. I don't know anything about any videotape. Hana, I'm just out here ditching lunch and class. Isn't that what normal boys do? He asked. She had no argument for that question. Ka did like to sneak out of class along with the rest of those ragtag friends of his. However, Hana was not in the mood for this little game. Wrong. You might not know this, Naruto, but the Inuzuka have hearing 10 times more sensitive than the average human. Though distorted and voice changed, the speech pattern and fluctuations are the same. No matter how much they try, people cannot change their speech patterns and vocal functions so easily. If this is a prank, then I'll make sure it's the last prank you'll ever pull, she warned. Na was hardly perturbed. As that's so, well, I have been known to get away with pranking a couple of years ago. Though, there is a slight problem with your theory. I wonder if your clansman's hearing is as good as you claim. After all, the person I gave the video to isn't an Inuzuka, are they? He answered. Na was a tad surprised when he found Hana's hands around his neck. She roughly shoved him into one of the weakening walls of a run-down building. You probably had no one to discipline you growing up, but I'm more than willing to handle the task at the moment. You aren't a ninja yet, but there are many things I can do with a cane without making you bleed. Hana threatened. She pulled out a kunai from her pouch for emphasis. Oh. Scary, scary. Whatever can a poor defenseless academy student do against a Tunin-level shinobi? Na asked. Hana narrowed her eyes, but then a sharp gasp fell from her lips when she felt something sharp prick her throat. She glanced down and she wondered if her mind were really snapping into pieces. From Naruto's right arm rested a blade of blood which had cut open a tiny scar to her throat. What the Hana never got to finish that thought before she dropped her kani to the ground. It landed with a hard thud. She released Naruto and staggered back. She could feel her lungs expanding and contracting. Her world was spinning. She tried to focus, but it seemed her nerves were out of sync. She showed just enough movement in her eyes to watch her former blonde victim stand before her. He dusted off his jumpsuit. His once blue eyes were as dark and red as wine, and they were just as intoxicating. Hana-chan, come to me, oh Kami. His voice sounded like sweet music. It was honey to her ears. She found herself powerless to resist his call. Her legs moved slowly, almost trance-like. She walked until she was in front of him. Now kneel, he ordered. Try as her mind wished to resist, her body found its knees bending. She growled and clenched, but her legs fell to the dirt with her head lowered. She looked up at him. A twisted smile marred his face. Such a soothing voice, such a comforting voice. It might as well have been the voice of Kami himself. Na touched her cheek with his hand. Suddenly, the feeling of elation was gone. Hana widened her eyes in disbelief. She noticed that she was seated, her head low before the Kyabi Ginryuki. His hands felt cold, and the steel in his voice flowed like smooth butter. You see, Hana-chan, I have had discipline. I've had to wear it every single day of my life. Konoha made me realize that trying to be what I'm not is a waste of time. Now it's my turn to teach you to stop being what you're not. He paused. He walked away from her for a moment. He stood in the middle of the street. There was not a sound. It seems I laced the area with blood a little too well. Don't you think? You couldn't even smell them. Naruto snapped his fingers and Hana watched at least a dozen men and women with blades come from the abandoned corners. She stilled. What was going on here? Her head was heavy and she could feel the pressure building. The young Inuzuka fell over to the ground. Pick her up, but treat her gently. This is the start of a beautiful relationship. Dabo was the last thing she heard. Hana opened her eyes. She leaned up and found herself in a bed with soft covers of linen. She quickly discovered she was in a room she didn't recognize. Her head was aching and she was sure that she had been passed out for quite some time. What happened to Clear's throat, me? Hana asked. The last thing she remembered was speaking to Uzumaki Naruto. Then she passed out. Yes, Uzumaki Naruto, the pariah of Konoha. He had taken her to a secluded part of the village, but it seemed that she had fallen flawlessly into his trap. Not once was she in control of the brief conversation they had. What was that feeling of tremendous pressure which she felt, the things he made her do? It was unsettling. Most importantly, she touched her throat. There was that blade he had crafted. The sting of red life essence still filled her nose. Where had he gotten that ability from? Or did he always have it? Suddenly, the door at the far edge of the room opened. Hana watched a man come through the door. He was rather rough-looking and it was very tall. In his arms was a tray of food and water. He did not speak a word to her. In fact, the Inuzuka was even wondering if he acknowledged her presence. He set the tray on the table and left without a word. Forgive Hana if she didn't jump at either refreshment. 5 minutes passed before the door opened again. Next came a woman about her age. Her brown hair and onyx eyes reminded Hana faintly of a former friend of hers, but it couldn't possibly have been the case. Get up. Na wants to see you, she ordered. Hana did not move. Instead, she offered a small growl. That did not seem to do well with the woman. I wasn't asking, she said. She grabbed Hana's arm with surprising strength and pulled her out of the bed. Almost immediately, former daughter of the Inuzuka matriarch fell to the floor. Her entire body felt like seasoned gelatin. TCH. If it wasn't for you, I could be training right now. Even now, you've never changed. Always the person who needed to be dragged along. She growled. She then picked up Hana and dragged her out of the room. Hana felt slightly dizzy walking as opposed to sitting as she had been. They must have been walking in a hallway because it was dark and there was a sound of echoes from their steps. In addition, Hana could hear some people crying and moaning. From the way it sounded, it seemed like she had been in a dungeon cellar of some sort. Water dripped from the concrete slabs above down to the floors below. There was possibly an underground sewer system which funneled coming and going water. Where was she? Hana couldn't keep her eyes open. The next time Hana opened her eyes, she was seated in a chair. Well, I don't know how proud the Inuzuka clan is of its tolerance to foreign antibodies, but you handled yourself really well. The last person I did that was pronounced dead at the hospital. Then again, maybe I'm overestimating the Inuzuka. After all, your body isn't like theirs now. Is it, Sleeping Beauty? Hana glanced up and she noticed Naruto behind a desk. He seemed busy signing some documents that she couldn't see. They were both alone, or so Hana assumed. She had assumed they were alone the last time and now she was here being talked down to by a boy of Ka's age. What did you do to me? She asked. Na didn't answer her question. Instead, he reached underneath his table and pulled out a folder. I know see where adults are coming from. Children want to grow up so fast. They want the adult life so much, but never do they consider how good they have it. At least for some. You never got that, did you? In fact, most of your childhood was spent in the company of Medic Nin. It honestly amazes me how you had time to be a kunoiki, he replied. Hana said nothing. She offered no retort. Whatever was in that folder was most likely right. She hated the hospital with a passion. One could not fathom the amount of angst running through her body when she took that test. Her whole life had been diagnosis after diagnosis, professionals attempting to explain whatever disease her mother claimed she had. With this recent development, it all seemed to be making sense to her, and that made her angrier. This betrayal stung worse than any needle the doctors gave her. Na didn't need to look at her to understand what she was feeling. Her body was telling him. Here, Perhaps you need this more than I do, Na said. He slid the folder across the table until it fell into her lap. Her eyes, though rather hazy, stared at the folder with uncertainty. Don't mistake her. Hana wanted to look inside that folder, and there might have been the answers which she needed, but she was still a kunoiki. She could tell when something was too good to be true. She glanced at the blonde. You're not doing this out of the goodness of your heart. What do you want from me? A bedtime story? Hana asked. Yes, she was aware of how childish the jab was, but she would take what she could get. Na wasn't fazed. Oh. Trust me, Hana-san, I've come to garner quite a lot of knowledge of bedtime stories and tales more than even you know. As for what I want, well, that is much too broad a question to answer, Naruto answered. A chill ran down Hana's spine, but she chose to ignore it for the moment. She then slowly picked up the folder, but she didn't open it. How did you even get this folder? A boy like you can't even get into the shinobi section of the library. Yet, you're giving away highly classified documents. What happened to you? Hana asked. Na knew what she was doing, but he decided to play along anyway. What happened to me? I suppose I've just decided to live up to expectations. You could call it an epiphany that I had as I was close to death on my birthday. Don't you think it's thrilling? Living up to the expectations of others. If I become what they want, then there shouldn't be anything to complain about now, should there? I've decided to give Konoha what her people have always wanted, he responded. Hana had a feeling she wasn't going to like the answer, but she asked anyway. And what is that? She asked. A bead of sweat fell down her face. She saw his eyes shine with the color of pure dread. A monster, one that makes children scared to sleep at night. One that will make these streets run red with the blood of thousands. A decimation of all life, values, and morals that reside within this structured society and culture we call a village. Finally, I will be a destroyer of hope in a brighter tomorrow. There is no brighter tomorrow. There is only the slow descent into despair and oblivion for Konoha and anyone else who stirs my IBO. Naruto finished. Hana felt a sense of dread when she heard him say that. It seemed that the Konoha populace had definitely pushed the young boy too hard. There was not enough good in the village to counteract the possible evils done to him, and now they had truly created that which they feared the most. Perhaps Hana was the same way. You would kill children? Hana asked if it furthers my goals. Yes, I would. There are actually a couple of parents paying this organization medical fundings for their children. Their lives are quite literally in my hands, the Kyuubi Gingeriki replied. Hana leaned forward, the drowsiness slowly working itself out of her system. Why are you telling me this? I could go to the Hokage with this information, she retorted. However, she was not expecting Naruto to outright laugh at her. It started out as a snicker before it turned into an uproar. It did not make Hana happy. Oh, please, we're both above idle threats, Hana NC Han. The worst thing that could happen to me is that I most likely would be chained down in some dark corner of the village. You see, call it a hunch of mine, but I'm beginning to think that it's no coincidence that I was chosen to hold the Kyuubi no Yoko, Naruto explained. Hana did not want to know what he meant by that. The adolescent Inuka folded her arms. And what does this have to do with me? The video, the riddles, the folder. Why are you doing this? She asked. Na proceeded to lean forward. It's quite simple. Business terms would refer to it as give and take. I'll give you what you want. Purpose, meaning, understanding, and justice. In return, you will give yourself to me, Naruto demanded. Before Hana could even register that comment, the blonde held out his hand. Who you are, who you will become, who you will hate, who you will love, where you eat, where you sleep, and even what drives you will be mine. Mind, body, soul, spirit, I will possess all four from you. Like so many others in here, you are but an extension of my will. Ask questions, trying to find reason in my desires. I don't care, but you will follow them through no matter what they are. Naruto claimed. His eyes seemed rather hypnotic. Their red hue had returned, and they drove her wild with emotion. Surprised herself, Hana did not turn down the invitation instantly. So, I'm your slave. That's what you're telling me to become? She asked. Her young captor shrugged his shoulders. Slave, servant, agent, worker. Call it what you feel suits you the best. It's the same ideology. Just follow my instructions and I don't think we'll have a hard time, he replied. He could feel her heart beating. Though her face was neutral, her body could not betray the tense atmosphere she felt. While he didn't quite have her trapped, he had her rather intrigued. She knew he had outwitted her, which was why she was in this situation. She had seen just a sample of the forces which had been to him. Like a dog, she was sniffing him out. Could he truly promise her what he was saying? And how do you know those are things I want? Maybe I'm fine being the first generation of dog soldiers. Maybe I'm fine with do not touch me. Hana stilled as the TV behind Naruto came to life. She was back in the hospital and she had just screamed at the doctor. The footage played out as seamlessly as she remembered from yesterday. With the press of a remote, Naruto paused the image when Hana had just finished her rampage. If you truly believe the words which came out of your mouth, then you wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be acting like that after learning such shocking discoveries. Don't overestimate your value to me, Hana NC Han. Given the time I could just as easily ring apart your adopted family of __ if I wanted. I'm merely extending the courtesy of you doing it yourself. The blonde asserted. It was the truth as well. Sort of. The truth was, he was seeking to corrupt her slowly, ever so slowly, until she wouldn't be able to recognize herself. Call it a special project. Who are you? Hana asked. Na perked up at this question. He did not understand what she was asking for, but thankfully, she continued to clarify. I know Uzumaki Na. I've seen you with Ka and your other friends a handful of times. You never acted like this, Hana said. In response, Naruto leaned back into his chair. He intertwined the fingers of his left and right hand. You know, Hana-chan, there is a saying, true horrors are never created on their own. They are birthed from the thoughts of men. Rest assured, I'm still Na. I would just say that my mannerisms and behaviors have taken a shift from those I have encountered. In a sense, perhaps I seek to help you because you remind me of myself a couple of days ago. Fighting so hard to find a reason to your life and your own existence. Ever since I told you that story, you have questioned your entire being. Na stood up from his chair and moved across the table. For so long, you've remained blissfully unaware of the cage and leash which have been tied to you. Now that cage is open, and all you need to do is walk through it. It excites you, doesn't it? To be set free, to bite the hands that subdued you, controlled you, deceived you. You want to hurt them just like they hurt you. Become what they feared you would be, their new master, Na said. His breath tickled her ears in her neck. Stunned, she felt, unable to move from these trapped words that ignited the beast within her experimented body. Like a woven dream, she could see herself standing upon the bodies of those who had toyed with her, lied to her, used her. A loud roar of triumph as she paved the way to her own future. She felt Na cup her chin. He held her eyes into his. She stared at the wondrous sight of rubies, burning with an intense glow of desire. May I kiss you? Na asked. Hana shivered from his tone. Way, Hana asked. Call it. Marking what's mine. Also, I'll have a good laugh out of Ka when I tell him I kissed his beloved NC Han, Naruto remarked. Hana did not think on this for long. Instead, she quickly pushed her lips into the blonde, allowing him to relish in his first kiss with a woman. He could now fully understand the thrill that his memories from so many people had provided him. Damn, this could become an addiction if he wasn't careful. Both pulled away breathless. Don't call me his sister. Don't call me an Inuzuka either. I'm just Hana now, if that's what you want, she replied. Na gave a grin of satisfaction. He then moved back to his chair and took a seat. Well, I think you deserve some time to get accustomed to this change. Go find the training area. Perform what you wish. Others will be joining soon enough, Na claimed. Hana stood up and agreed. She grabbed the folder and proceeded out of the room. This action left Na alone for a moment before Yuga dropped from the ground. She took a step next to him. What makes you think she won't betray you? She has no true reason to help you either, Yuga said. Nali seemed amused. Worried about me. Thank you, Yuga-chan. I always knew you cared, he replied. The Ambu sucked her teeth and glanced off to the side. That was the furthest thing from the truth. That wasn't why she had asked the question. Yet, her blonde captor seemed to know this. Of course, she might think of betraying me. In fact, I count on her thinking that right now, but I'd say this is a good game to play. Can I corrupt my dear Hana-chan completely before she follows through with that betrayal? High risk for even higher reward, Naruto answered. Yua wanted to say she was disgusted with his thought processes, but she wasn't sure what she should be thinking, and that terrified her. Besides, even if she does betray me later, she still has her uses. Betrayal only comes from trust. I think I'm exhibiting good shinobi practice. I don't trust anyone, Naruto claimed. Yuga did not speak. She could only wonder if Konoha would be the same through these orals. Yes. Hokage-sama. Na said all of those things. I am worried about him. I looked all over for him with another teacher, but we couldn't find him. He's always been good at hiding, but never this good, Oruruka replied. The Sandaime Hokage released a tired sigh. He didn't tell anyone, but not even his crystal ball was locating Uzumaki Naruto, and he didn't understand why. These behaviors were truly odd, and the elderly leader of the village was growing concerned as well. I see. Notify me of when Naruto-kun is in class next time. I will head there to speak with him. Hai responded back. The Chunin Academy teacher offered a bow before he opened the door and left. Once he was gone, Serbi placed his head in his hands. Honestly, first Na was almost killed. Then the red dragon exploded, killing and injuring many. Konoha's most notorious mob boss had gone missing. A mysterious murder of a civilian woman. And now Naruto's demeanor changes. What was happening? It's because Gigi, I've had enough of your way and your excuses. You always told me to resist the names they called me. You're not a demon, nah. Just ignore them, nah. They will see eventually, nah. I remember each and every single suggestion you gave me. Well, they don't seem to be seeing anything. It's also kind of hard to ignore nearly dying. Happy birthday to me, right? Na asked. Could all of this be connected? It was a chilling thought. It's no longer what I will be. Gigi, it's what I am, a monster. More specifically, I am Kona's monster. I can tell from the way your heart just skipped a beat that you're surprised. I don't blame you. Why would the lovable, gullible, stubborn, idiotic dreamer Na want such a thing? Na asked. Perhaps the nicotine was getting to his nerves, but Hirozen wasn't feeling confident that this was Naruto anymore. Yet, one of his best Ambu, Isuki Yuga, was monitoring the boy, and her daily reports had showcased that there was nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, he seemed to be returning to his normal self. Perhaps he was just having a bad day, and Hien was letting his old age get to him. Then again, for shinobi, when instinct says that something is wrong, there is a reason for it. Serbi exhaled. No, I'll trust in Neko's reports for the time being. If this continues, then I will take affirmative steps. Hirozen thought. He had to trust in his shinobi. They were his family. The Sandaime turned to the picture of the Yandai Hokage. Was there truly no other way? Minato-kun, Hai asked. He went back to his work. For the rest of the day, he remained rather melancholy. Sasaki sat on his bed thinking about what he had done today. He had done as instructed and given the red card to Na. Granted, he didn't know what this was supposed to signify, but if the Dobby had some stupid purpose to the organization WHI.CH would give him strength and led him to Itachi, then the Uchiha didn't care. Admittedly, the Uzumaki's outburst in front of the class had completely blindsided the raven-haired boy. Naruto was loud and boisterous, sure, but he had never been that ruthless to anyone. Also, Sasaki wouldn't admit it, but he did feel the same way, but not as brutal as that. The thing which annoyed Sasuke currently was that he was on his bed doing nothing. Uchiha Sasaki hated doing nothing. Every second he was doing nothing was another second his brother was getting stronger than him. That was something he couldn't stand. How long was he supposed to wait until he received a reply? This was infuriating. What's taking him so long? I should have heard something by now. If that lady was playing tricks on me, then she's next after I take care of Itachi. Sasaki grumbled in the corners of his own thoughts. He was ready to turn out the light to his house for bed. When there came a knock at the front door, the Uchiha leaned up from his bed. Silence seemed to greet him before the knock came a bit harder. His feet on his floor, Sasaki walked out of his bedroom and through the halls. He moved down a flight of stairs and then came to the front door. He frowned, but he unlocked the door and opened it. Sasaki would say one thing. He was not expecting a Hyuga to be in front of him at this hour. Uchiha Sasake, I am John and Co. Hyuga, get dressed. You will be coming with me. The Hyuga ordered. Sasake tried to keep the nervousness from his voice. He hoped he wasn't going to be brought in for questioning. On what grounds? Sasake asked. He did not know what he was going to do. But he knew he couldn't be a Jonin, much less a Hyuga Jonin. You'll find out. Now come on before I take you in your sleep attire. Ko replied. Sasake growled, but he allowed the Jonin inside his house. He then marched upstairs to his bedroom. The young academy student threw on some random clothes he had laying around and came back to meet his supposed courier. Good. Follow me, County said. He then led the Uchiha outside and away from his home. Both entered the rather busy streets of Konoha's nightlife, but there was no time to admire the sights nor the sounds. Truth be told, neither was particularly interested. Once County felt they were a relatively safe distance away, he held out a piece of cloth. Put this on, he ordered. Sasake quickly came to realize that whatever they were doing was not something done by Konoha personnel. No doubt this was the answer that the organization who was recruiting him had come up with. The Uchiha didn't bother asking why. He assumed that he wouldn't get an appropriate answer anyway. He took the blindfold and placed it over his eyes. The next half an hour was spent in a series of confusing turns. Shady greetings, blinking lights, loud music, and even more twists and turns. Finally, the only sound that Sasake heard was a tiny drip of water. Slowly, the blindfold was removed, but it was very dark. Good evening, Uchiha Sasake. You might be wondering where you are or who's talking to you. The answer to both is unnecessary. What is necessary is your place in the world I am planning to create. Allow me to preface this by saying you were not a choice I made to stand with us. The videotape, the conspiracy revolving your family and Konoha and your presence here was all suggested by Usuzu Nitsuko. She's taken a particularly strong liking to you, especially since her family was killed in almost the same way yours was. Birds of a feather, I suppose, the voice which had been on the videotape said. A chuckle escaped its lips. Sasake couldn't see anything, but he supposed that this was coming from some speakers around the area. Suddenly, the lights flashed open. In front of Sasake were two separate mirrors. However, what made Uchiha Sasake widen his eyes was seeing Usuzu strapped to a chair. In another room was another woman in the same state. Unlike Usuzu, this woman was gagged. She frantically shook her head back and forth. Usuzu-san seems to think that you have such strong needs for revenge that you are a welcome hell irreplaceable ingredient for my goals. I however am not so convinced. Therefore, if Usuzu has chosen wrong, then the price shall be her life and you will watch as the woman who has so much faith in you is killed before your very eyes, the voice claimed. Sasake pulled, and with the light from the windows, he was able to see that he too was in a locked room. Sasake tried to open the door to his room, but it was locked. No matter how hard he pulled, it wouldn't break. And curse him, he had just used his chakra practicing. He didn't have enough to blow the door down. In the second room, you have Kai Shingen, wife of Takamura Shingen, one of the wealthiest underground bosses which has been birthed within the elemental nations. I will tell you a secret, Sasake-san. Besides Itachi, you are not the only Uchiha left. You still have some distant family members remaining, it said. Sasake stopped struggling against the door. He turned around. What are you talking about? I saw Itachi kill every last Uchiha with my very eyes. He tortured me with it for what felt like days. I have no one left. Sasake roared, but he was only met with silence for a moment. That remains to be seen. You see, there is one surviving Uchiha member in this organization. She was held here by Takamura Shingen-san and his wife. Here is their property for who knows how long, it said. Sasake widened his eyes and he turned to the woman Kai Shingen. She screamed and cried behind the window, but the glass casing made it impossible to make out anything she said. Yes, it seems blood is rather popular among slave traders. Sonogakure, Awagakaka, Kumogakaka, Kuriaka. Hell, even some minor nations all have one or two Uchiha sold to them. Each of the disappearances were covered up by Konoha. And those who worked for the Shingens, it teased. Sasake stared at her. His anger was quickly rising. If that was true, then that meant she was also an instrument in the destruction of his clan and his family. He was so angry he could barely think. He wanted to lash out. He wanted to hurt her. He wanted to crush her and her husband beneath the weight of Uchiha justice. Why are you telling me this if I can't get to her? Sasaki asked. Because, my friend, you will have a choice to make, the voice said over the speakers. The young then watched as water poured into both rooms. He watched Kai twist and tear her body in her chair frantically. Usuzu was quiet, almost patient even. Her eyes were closed as if accepting what would be. Children talk of grudges so many times and yet their conviction fades with time. I don't need pathetic angsty child's rage in my world. The water completely filled both rooms in 10 minutes. Kill Kai Shingen in the name of your clan or Azu Nitsuko dies where she sits for her choice in attempting to axe. PT someone with faulty revenge. You may shout room 1 or room 2 to release a special surprise for whom you pick. The voice explained, TCH faulty revenge. His Uchiha Sasaki was an avenger. His entire clan murdered. Usuzu Nitsuko had believed him. She had experienced his pain and suffering. Was it even a choice? I choose window. Sasaki paused when the speakers came aloud. Now this requires a bit more thinking than that, Sasuke. You see, Kai Shingen and Takamura Shingen have a son of their own. In fact, he is in the academy training to be a shinobi worthy of Konoha. He has remained blissfully unaware of the plight of his family. Kept in the dark by previous agents who worked for his father, he has no idea what is befalling his parents. That's right, Sasaki. Revenge is a poison which drains the hope from the veins of the living. If you kill Kai Shingen, then for your revenge, you will be no different from Itachi who took your mother away from you. Just as you were created in hatred, so too will you make their son walk his path of vengeance to kill you and avenge his family. Is Itachi's death worth that on your conscience? Tick-tock, Sasaki. You can't have both. Your revenge or your humanity. Give up one. Tick-tock. The voice left with that. Sasaki bit his lips so hard he let it bleed. If he wanted his revenge, then he would have to create someone who felt just like him. He would become like Itachi and set another avenge down the long road of betrayal, hurt, and death. In order to get what he wanted, he would have to become a monster and breed a monster in return to continue the sea. Rule line. He watched the water get higher and higher. It covered the floor and began to rise past their knees. Sasaki cursed this stupid woman. What was she even doing? Sasaki shouldn't even care about her. She was just some no-name lady who got him involved in this crazy nonsense. If she was going to die, then that was her problem. Why was he the one deciding her fate? She gave him the chance to claim the strength needed to get to Itachi. He just had to make a fellow classmate suffer as he had suffered. He had to be an unforgiving, unredeemable monster. There is no value in killing the likes of you, my foolish brother. If you want to kill me, curse me, hate me, and live a long and unsightly life, run away, and cling to your pitiful life. And then someday, when you have the same eyes as I do, come before me. Sasaki clutched his head. The memories of his fallen aunts, uncles, cousins, and so many others cried out to him for justice. Those wrongly accused underneath Konoha and those who had not done a single wrong. What did he train so hard for? Why did he forsake those idiots at the academy? Because attachments that did not help his goals were worthless. Konoha had ordered his clan to be killed. This anger, this rage, it threatened to make the Uchiha collapse. Tick-tock, Sasaki's. Tick-tock. Sasaki opened his eyes and he stilled when he saw both begin to hold their breath as their bodies were completely submerged. He originally didn't seek you, but I asked him to. I had been watching you for a long time, Sasuke. I know what it's like. That desire for vengeance, that loneliness which no one else understands, and lies carried by those you once thought closest. When I learned what this village did to you, just as they had done to me, I knew you would be perfect for our organization. We will give you the strength to bring your enemies to their knees. Usuzu claimed. You're just like me, Sasaki. Just like me. Just like me. Like me. Like me. If you will join us, give this red card to Uzumaki Naruto. He is a central part of our plans, though he is unaware of it yet. I hear he's the dead last of the academy, yet even he has his uses. If you don't wish to embark upon your revenge, then place this blue card back here in the field. We won't meet again, she said. Sasaki had given the Dobby the red card. He knew what that entailed. He knew that as long as he killed Itachi, he didn't care what happened to him. Restore his clan, bring them justice, if he had to sell his soul, if he had to fight fire with fire, if he had to become like Itachi to kill Itachi, then window 2. Sasaki said he felt a breath of relief escape him when he saw the water drain from Uzu's room. The red-haired woman took a deep breath and coughed. The Uchiha then turned his head to the second window. He watched Kai Shingen, wife of Takamura Shingen, choke and writhe in pure agony as the water filled the room. Her screams were not heard, but her expressions would stay with Sasaki all his life. As air began to slow expel from her lungs, her body spasmed and twitched. Her cuffed hands and feet scraped and clawed against the metal restraints which bound her. After so many minutes of struggling, she drowned in her own room. The lights in the window went out. Yet over the speakers, Sasaki was sure he heard the sound of something crunching. He was glad to not know what it was. Suddenly, the Uchiha was brought into a tight but wet hug. You did it, Sasaki. I'm so proud of you. I knew you were strong. Don't worry, I will make you stronger. I will make you so much stronger than you are now. I promise, she claimed. For once in his life, Sasaki was too tired to comment. He couldn't even push her away. Despite her wet attire, she felt very homely. He closed his eyes. Yes, if it was for his clan, then Uchiha Sasaki was willing to become a monster devoid of hope in a normal life. Na leaned back into his chair. I don't understand. Why do you make him think he killed Kaishing? You quickly replaced her with a double. I don't get it, Izumi said. Naruto laughed. Oh. Trust me, I have much more in store for her than to have her die at the hands of someone like Sasuke. Let's call that a simple observation. After all, training children to become monsters is what a shinobi village is all about. I just sped up the process, Na replied. Izumi snorted, but she quickly walked out of the room. Just because Na had assigned her to Sasaki did not mean that she was going to take it easy on him, family or not. If he slowed her down, then he was disposable just like anyone else. Naruto watched Ayumi leave before he turned his head back to the monitor. Well, Gigi, it's been an odd turn of events for you, hasn't it? I hope you entertain me soon. Right now, you're making this almost too easy for me, Dad Bio. You as well, Mizuki trademark. I hope you're proving to be an adequate resource as well. I have so many fun things planned, Naruto claimed. He continued to watch the monitor of Izu hugging Sasaki while he slept. Yes, Sasaki, find comfort in Izu. Naruto would lead her to direct you down into the depths of hell where they were all going. Deep beneath the ground, in caverns below, a young shinobi, his hair a tint of ash gray, and the glasses upon his face, walked across the tiled floors. A rather cruel grin etched itself on his face. The dimly lit halls, an expression of the nigh fading light that resides within the consciousness of men. When one travels these halls for the first time, there is the constant feeling of paranoia. Each step is potentially one's last. That is the world of a criminal, but that is also the world where most of the secrets that make up structure are held. The young man knocked on a door before opening it. Lord Orochimaru, he called. Another restless night of experiments, tests, notes, tubes, and fluids. There were times the man wondered if his master was even human at times like this. Then again, to be greater than what you were is the feeling of every person. What is it, Kabuto? I am very busy. I told for no distractions. This is a delicate process, Orochimaru claimed. His long black hair had been tied into a ponytail, an attempt to prevent excess follicles from interfering with the procedure. A surgical mask and gown covered his face and body respectfully. Kabuto did not see who his master was working on, but he assumed it was for something vital. Yes, Orochimaru-sama, but I believe this requires your attention. It's a letter from Mizuki in Konoha. Kabuto replied. Orochimaru offered no reply. What could be of such importance that it would require that pathetic Chunin to message him? He had tasked the academy teacher with securing the forbidden scroll for more research. There were jutsu placed in it that could be vital to his studies. He did not care how long it took the Chunin as long as he didn't fail. If he failed, then he was of no more use to the Sunning and he would move on to the next project. Seeing that his master was no interested, Kabuto clarified. Unfortunately, it's not about the scroll, but it's about Takamura Shingen. Apparently, the Konoha underworld is under a new leader, he said. Now that was rather interesting. What could have happened to poor Shingenkan? Orochimaru had purchased quite the sizable selection of subjects from him and others. It made it much easier than having to kidnap them on his own. Still, this was nothing to bring to his attention while he was performing what he felt was critical duty, deciding not to beat around the bush anymore, lest he anger or annoy his master. Kabuto exhaled. It seems that this new leader was aware of Mizuki's connection to us. I don't know what he blackmailed Mizuki with, but he was tasked with sending us this letter. The person only asked one thing. How value is Uchiha blood? Kabuto replied. Orochimaru stopped working. Behind his mask laid a small frown. He leaned up and took a deep breath. Let me see the letter, he said. Kabuto bowed and offered the letter to the Sunning. The rather tall adult male exited the room and tore open the scroll. Unfortunately, time wasn't with him to read all of it, but it seemed to be quite intriguing. Kyuku, how fascinating. This might increase your usefulness more than I had initially suspected. Mizuki, Orochimaru grinned, his eyes brimming with the seeds of lust for knowledge and information. So guys, what do you think about this Naruto story? Tell me your opinion in the comments. And if you want more Naruto what if stories, make sure to subscribe to Universe of Naruto. Thanks for watching.